NFL as the 49ers will be hosting the Rams. San Francisco will be without left tackle Trent Williams. Running back Isaac Guerrero and defensive end Nick Bosa are questionable. In the NBA, the Hawks have punched their ticket to Las Vegas after defeating the Knicks in the NBA Cup quarterfinals 108-100. Trae Young led the way with a double-double, 22 points and 11 rebounds. Atlanta will now face Milwaukee in the semifinals on Saturday, while the Rockets punched their ticket to Las Vegas after edging the Warriors 91-90. Alperen Şengün led the way for Houston with 26 points and 11 rebounds. Houston will now face OKC in the semifinals. And in the NHL, the Rangers edged the Sabres 3-2. The Sabres have lost 8 in a row. The Senators crushed the Ducks 5-1. The Ducks have lost 4 in a row. And according to multiple reports, Bill Belichick will be the new head football coach at the University of North Carolina. I'm Monty Bolaños.
82 million Americans listen to local AM radio each month and turn to those stations during emergencies. Encourage your legislators to pass the AM for Every Vehicle Act, which will keep AM radios in cars. For more information, visit nab.org/advocacy.
Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7.
Staying cold on Thursday, a chance for flurries during the morning. Otherwise, expect cloudy skies to start. Some afternoon sunshine with highs in the lower 20s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
1620, The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time-Saving Traffic Center. Good morning. Hope your Thursday's off to a great start. Right now, not seeing any major delays in the metro. No accidents, slow traffic buildup, or obstructions that have come up this morning. There is a closure on Saddle Creek from Farnham to Leavenworth as a water main gets repaired. As updates come in about that, I will get that to you. But for now, that area remains closed. Just stay safe and wear that seatbelt. I'm Peter Krenzer. This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Modern Real Estate.
Introducing Modern Real Estate, the game changer in Nebraska's property market. They make buying, selling, and investing more affordable and transparent than ever. You're in control of how and where your money is spent. Visit modernrealestateco.com and experience the future of real estate today.
Are you ready? Creed. Bio for Wellington Man. The Summer of '99 tour returns. Friday, August 1st, Pinnacle Bank Arena. With very special guest, Don Freeze. And Mammoth WV8. Tickets on sale Friday at 10 a.m. at Ticketmaster.com. The Summer of '99 tour.
The Zone Hotline is powered by 42 Degrees. The Source. By your mom's house.
Raising little ones is a big job, and you do your best to give them a good start every day. That means making sure they're well cared for while you're apart. You work hard, but it's not always easy to make ends meet. There may be help. Find out if you qualify for Nebraska's Childcare tax credit for working parents. You could be eligible for a credit of up to $2,000 per child on your next tax return. Learn more at nebraskachildcaretaxcredit.org. Brought to you by First 5 Nebraska and Nebraska Children and Families Foundation and aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
You guys just didn't want it bad enough. That should have been an easy win. What were you doing out there? You got to hustle. You could have made that play if you'd been open.
On the car ride home after the game, when you think you're helping by telling me what I did wrong and what I need to work on, all I hear is that I'm not good enough, that I'm supposed to be perfect, that it's not okay to lose. On the car ride home, all I need to hear is how much you love me and enjoy watching me play, that my worth isn't determined by my performance, that even on my worst day, I am worthy, that you see me learning, growing, and doing my best, and that is enough.
This message presented by the NSAA and the Nebraska State Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Granger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Granger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at tryethos.com. That's tryethos.com.
Not all products are available in all 50 states. Compounded products are not FDA approved nor verified for safety, efficacy, or quality. Wegovy and Ozempic are not compounded. Prescription required. Restrictions apply. See website for full details.
Why try Hims for weight loss? If you're interested in personalized prescription options, including Ozempic, Wegovy, oral medications, and compounded GLP-1 injections, and the support to see real results, you might like it. Why try Hims to regrow hair? If a range of treatment options made with clinically proven ingredients like minoxidil and finasteride for thicker, fuller hair in 3 to 6 months sound good, you might like it. Why try Hims for ED? If you've been looking for access to doctor-trusted treatments like Viagra, Cialis, and their more affordable generic counterparts, you and your partner might like it. The Hims process is simple, 100% online, and treatments are shipped free to your door in discreet packaging if prescribed. What's not to like? To save big on weight loss, hair loss, and ED solutions, get started today at hims.com. That's hims.com.
1620 The Zone. Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. 1620thezone.com and 1620 The Zone TV. Now, here's Gary, Matt, and Jimmy.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome in on a Thursday. Let's turn the volume down. Let's say hello to everybody. Wow, there you are. You're on camera. Good morning. Bizarro world, right? We live in a bizarro world. I'm doing a show with you. That is first and foremost. Nick Saban left college football. Rich Rodriguez came back to West Virginia. And Chapel Bill is a thing. I think we should just, every segment, there needs to be a Chapel Bill reference because I'm getting the sense that people love that. They can't get enough of Chapel Bill.
So, you know when you and I had talked on
recently, like within the last minute?
Tuesday, and I told you
I
was trying to explain to you Gen Z comedy that like Gen Z comedy is kind of like a very ironic, weird, like it's not necessarily slapstick and like big loud stories. It's just weird, funny stuff, like things that shouldn't be. This is the ultimate form of Gen Z comedy. Chapel Bill, Bill Belichick, recruiting 18-year-olds, having a 26-year-old girlfriend.
24
is the ultimate.
Yeah, get it right. Yeah,
Hey, difference. Hey, there's between a
2 years
26-year-old
makes
and a 24-year-old.
I need to know. No. This is great information for me. I mean, this is something that I'm going to be experiencing. And there was Brenda, but Chapel Bill.
Shaniqua?
Chapel Bill's awesome. About 3 Kims.
You can continue. We did that on the crossover yesterday. I'm a
no,
big fan
I don't want
of
to keep reusing jokes. I'm not a big reuse jokes guy. Once I use it, I lose it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So kind of like your career.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
One and done.
I get
Just
it.
like this show. 1 week and I'm out of here.
Yeah, that's going to be unfortunate tomorrow because we won't even be together. We'll be in separate cities. We'll be in separate states.
We won't be holding hands during the show.
I can't wait to go to Waterloo, Iowa. Here in about 4 hours.
It sounds cold. It sounds icy.
It does.
Sounds snowy.
A little bit cold. You know what? I've not been to Waterloo, Iowa, because Omaha is on the road this weekend over in Iowa. They play Northern Iowa, and then they play Iowa State.
Oof.
Stranger things have happened.
No, I agree. But that's one hell of a Iowa State team. I'll be watching them tonight.
You'll enjoy Hilton.
Yeah, they got the Cy-Hawk game tonight.
That'll be great.
But I will be in Waterloo, Iowa. I've not been in Waterloo since I was doing the Lincoln Stars. When we go there and they play the Waterloo Blackhawks. Now, my mom grew up just outside of Waterloo.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be like old home week.
Yeah.
But I haven't been to Cedar Falls in a while. One of the first time I ever got high was in Cedar Falls.
Really?
Yeah, I went to.
Many do.
when I was in high school, young high school, a friend of mine, his brother drove us to the Pink Floyd concert at the Unidome.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
And so we were sitting behind four guys, like we're all like teenagers.
Yeah.
And we were sitting behind four guys that were smoking it up. And I was like, well, what is that? Man, did I get in trouble when I came home?
Really?
Well,
because
you
were
caught.
My parents did not smoke dope.
Yeah.
Back then they called it dope kids.
Sure.
They just were not into that. My parents
and it
were
was
not
highly
smoking.
illegal too.
Yeah. So my mom, being in the nursing industry,
Uh-oh.
she recognized the smell right away. And so I got I thought I was going to have to pee in a cup as her son.
She flashlight your eyes? Make sure they're red?
She was like, she goes, Gary Joseph, do we have a problem?
Not anymore.
No, Mom, we got home at 2 a.m. I'm like, nope.
Responsible.
Now, I didn't drink, Mom. I didn't do any of that stuff. She said, but did we do some smoking? And I was like, so I'm thinking
is your
a grit
mom,
between my teeth.
Is your mom just a passive aggressive, just like break you down mentally type of was? Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
No.
You didn't know.
I didn't. My apologies.
Shout out, Barb.
But my mother is very different.
Yeah.
She just slaps me.
Wow. She wasn't passive aggressive, but she would Harvey Specter you.
Oh,
She'd
I love
lead
that.
you into
Yes.
a moment where you would just hang yourself.
Play the man.
Yeah,
You don't play the cards,
yeah.
you play the man.
Yeah, I think I became a swashbuckler because of my mom.
Yeah.
I could hang and bang with the best of them. I could shovel some what.
You can. No, you're very good at it.
Thank you.
You're very good at it. I mean, this is why we're friends.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we're both, sarcastic and
you take the cake.
We have a love of sports cars and things like that.
You and I do?
Oh, you don't remember?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. So the one thing about Bill Belichick, and there's a lot of angles to just the bizarro world of him being at North Carolina. And there are, there's people on both sides of if this is going to work or not and what it means for college football. But the question has been, can he recruit? Is he going to be able to relate to 18-year-olds? Folks, he relates to a 24-year-old girl, okay?
Riz.
He going to be fine. But I thought he was playing one side against the other, but it reeks of desperation by North Carolina and Bill Belichick because he's going to get shut out of the NFL. Now, the biggest winner of Bill Belichick going to North Carolina, Brian Daboll with the Giants. Because that had been rumored that Belichick was going to come back to the Giants.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Now Daboll gets at least, they get at least another weekend. They're 16.5-point favorite against or 16.5 point underdog against the Ravens. But man,
how does Richie feel
Chapel,
about that?
Yeah, he's on to Shadur Sanders being an MSG last night. He's like, that's my quarterback or Cam Ward. But weird things going on in college football. Thankfully, in the hot stove, never stops. Nationally, locally. We could say when we came back on the air today, I'm back.
Sure.
And you'd be like, oh, Keona and Emmett are hosting a show.
I love it. I love Chapel Bill. Can I tell you something?
Sure.
You
In
see
confidence?
you see it on the surface and you're confused. This is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this happening? This isn't what I predicted. But I was sitting down after a mid-afternoon shower and I was thinking about it. It makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I know. That's why I threw that in there.
So
he's just flexing that he was clean.
So your whole schedule, your sleep schedule, I know is upside down.
It is.
And you're still commuting from Lincoln for another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, mid-afternoon shower because you just went to the bathroom or you didn't shower in the morning, you didn't have time, and so you thought you should refresh or you were going out last night?
Didn't shower in the morning.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Totally
I cannot live life without taking a shower at some point during the day.
Yeah.
So I'm not the guy who's I only take one. I can take up to 3 showers in a day.
When do you spread the 3 showers out?
So it would be, hey, I went out or I wake up in the morning, take a shower.
Uh-huh.
Right after working out, take a shower. Then do whatever I have in the day or whatnot. And then right before I go out, hey, let me take a shower.
Smart.
Or there have been times where I come home from being out
and take a shower.
Before I go to bed.
It happened to us. I was 21.
Yeah. Regardless, I was sitting down And I was thinking about Bill Belichick after taking a shower.
Okay, thank you for adding that.
Sat in the shower with a Miller Lite.
I didn't know where we were going.
After taking a shower, was thinking about Bill Belichick. It makes a ton of sense to me. It makes a little bit too much sense when you really think about it.
Okay.
Because why did he go through the job process or the coaching carousel last year and did not get a job? Because NFL teams did not want to re-rack the deck or change how they do things in the front office. Because what a lot of people forget is that Bill Belichick just wasn't the coach at New England. He was the general manager at New England. And when you were hiring Bill, it was of the understanding that you get Bill the coach and you get Bill the general manager. And one of the biggest reasons why Raheem Morris got hired, a guy who had no prior head coaching experience, why he got hired over him in Atlanta was because Atlanta did not want to have Bill the general manager. And they didn't want to make concessions toward that. We're in a time now in college football where every year goes by, it gets closer and closer and closer to the NFL. And so for Bill Belichick to have the full autonomy that he wants and that he had in New England, he has to go to college to achieve that. Because even if he were to go to be an NFL head coach, no organization was going to give him the runway that New England gave him.
I agree.
Now that he's in North Carolina, one of the reasons this took so long, how we heard it's happening, and then it finally happened, it was more like a 3-day process, was because he was negotiating a salary cap, which is reportedly $20 million in NIL. So he's got a salary cap. He's the general manager. He's the coach. He gets to pick who his players are. He gets to recruit, not recruit. And also, too, everyone's saying, is he going to relate to recruits? Nobody relates to recruits anymore. There's no such thing as relating to recruits. It's you pay the recruits. Now, is there if a kid is getting, 2 kids are getting $600,000, is the team that relates it to him the most going to get him? Yes, there is still some relationships there. But money supersedes everything nowadays. And it seems like North Carolina has got a pretty big bag of it. And so not only do I think this makes sense, I think it's going to work. I really believe that North Carolina is going to be a threat in the ACC.
So they've been underachieving for a long time.
Yes.
And thankfully, because Mac Brown's buyout was so low, they had money for Bill Belichick. And they've committed to being in it to win it at a basketball school and maybe make themselves appealing to the SEC or the Big Ten because football is on par with basketball.
Yep.
There's nothing that he's going to do that the Georgias and the Alabamas and the Ohio States and the Oregons are not doing now. Sure. There's nothing that he's going to do differently. But I don't know how they will measure success at North Carolina because will they measure success wins and losses or what's on the ledger? Because you make this hire about national attention. Colorado hires Dion to get the national attention, and you just hope the wins and losses come. At North Carolina, where, again, I thought for the longest time that's a very underachieving football program. Beautiful stadium. Now, they don't have a ton of history and players you can just rattle off. I mean, the greatest is Lawrence Taylor, which ironically is Bill Belichick's favorite player. I'm intrigued. I don't want to say this is definitely going to work because, the landscape is a little bit different. And will he relate to college kids in terms of the right buttons to push? Maybe in the NFL he was more appealing to rookies than vets. We don't know. But I will say this about him, and I give him credit. Somebody that is a little bit older in life, and he's 72, and he's been around the block for a while, and he's a legend. He's a HOF-er. He's one of the greatest football coaches, period, of all time. He has spent the last year redefining his image.
Yes.
Like Pat McAfee deserves a lot of credit.
Absolutely.
McAfee has made Belichick likable, and maybe that is something that in Belichick 2.0 in coaching that we will get, that the student reporter that is afraid to ask a question because you're going to get, we're on to Wake Forest. Actually, it will be an engaging conversation, and Bill will have less stress working at North Carolina. That's what I'm waiting to see. There's a lot of evidence out there that this is not going to work. And then there's some that say, you know what, it might work, but I wonder if it's wins and losses, ledger. The other thing about this, nepotism in college football has never been greater.
Yeah.
It is the Nepo baby. So his son's going to be the heir apparent.
Yes.
North Carolina, just like Colorado, has bowed down. They're like, whatever you want. Because what if North Carolina really struggles? Like, well, this isn't good, and they're 6-6, 7-5, but Steve Belichick is the next head coach? I mean, you get on the front end, you hope you get it on the back end, but the back end could be kind of a little choppy.
But from their perspective, it's a risk they're willing to take.
Yeah, because they're
irrelevant.
They're desperate.
They're irrelevant.
Belichick is desperate. North Carolina's desperate.
Give all the credit in the world to Bill Belichick's PR team and staff for when he went on the NFL draft show, which is where this kind of started with the Pat McAfee show. They told him, hey, look, you have to be likable. You have to be on the show. You have to interact with them. Hey, at the end of the draft, ask them if you can be on every Monday during the NFL season. And he, I was fired twice in Detroit. I don't want to get fired a third time. Can I come on every Monday? What's Pat McAfee going to say? No. Yeah, this is the greatest coach of all time. We're going to let him come on our show. And, people are interested in that type of stuff. And
lost 2 of his guests, though, yesterday.
Yeah.
Belichick and the pompous Mike Lombardi, who's going to be the GM.
Oh, of North Carolina?
Mm-hmm.
Good for Mikey.
Very pompous guy.
Mike Lombardi has been.
He's putting the gang back together.
I don't know Mike. I never heard of Mike until Pat McAfee show. He goes on the Pat McAfee show. I like him. My dad loves the Pat McAfee show. He turns it on every 11 a.m. It's his favorite thing to watch. It's a little weird. Anyway, with Belichick, there's also another aspect of this, which I think that I can speak well to. There's a lot of, Brady and Edelman and Gronkowski on the Fox show said that they're like, absolutely not. He could never coach in college or whatever. But I think what's missing here is that when he was in the NFL, there was a lot of players that he was coaching that still looked at him as just a coach, and they were grown men and whatnot. Yeah. And he didn't have all of the success. Some of these stories that you hear of, he wasn't the Bill Belichick of now. He was still getting to the point of winning all of those titles and chasing that greatness, right? Kids my age look at Bill Belichick not as this grumpy old man who's tough on people.
You look at him as the McAfee guy.
No, we look at him as a winner. We look at him as the greatest coach ever. We look at him as, if you want to be successful, you do what that guy says. And I think he has such, here's a Gen Z word for you, such an aura about football and such an aura? Of winning.
That's been around for a while.
I think it's getting more popular.
I think you Gen Z's, it's becoming more popular. No, we share that word.
Okay. But he has so
always
much
trying to take stuff from us.
Right.
Man, respect your elders.
He's got so much aura where I think that what he says, kids my age are like, yes, sir. Like, we'll do it. Like, all right, cool. Like, I'll fill it. Because is there anyone more? Is there anyone else in the football history that has more pedigree than he does, that has a greater resume than he does, that everything, like, there's no more proof in the pudding than he has that he can prove. He's proved it all. So when Bill Belichick says, you got to be the right flanker here, what are you doing? Get outside in the punt. Just turn your head around.
Good on you for mentioning the position flanker. I haven't heard flanker in a long time.
Like, you're going to listen to him. So
you might go, where do I line up? What is a flanker?
A safety man.
That is I haven't heard the word flanker used as a position, for a long time. Good on you, that old soul of yours.
When you're being a gunner, Edelman, why don't you just turn your head around? Red gloves over here. Me and Ernie can see you holding from the press box.
His time away, though, he is his image is different. The one thing here, I think, whether you think this is going to work out or not, there is the aspect that his dad was an assistant coach there, and he's always been somebody that respects the pass. I mean, look at last year. He was on game day on Army Navy, and that was kind of the opening of.
That was the beginning.
We knew it was over, and he was very engaging and talking about the history of Army Navy and his dad and his history in coaching. There is kind of, is this the farewell to go back to kind of where his love of football started, in the stands watching North Carolina play? There will be a lot of eyeballs. Will you watch a North Carolina game because Belichick's on the sideline over a Ohio State Oregon game or a Oregon, Penn State game?
I think that,
will he have the same appeal and pull as Dion had at Colorado?
I think he'll have more. I think he'll have more because there's an intrigue here, right? In terms of
definitely there's a deep intrigue on how this is going to work.
In terms of, okay, there still is this idea of Brady versus Belichick. As soon as they split, there's this idea of was it Bill or was it Brady? Brady goes to a great situation in Tampa. He wins a Super Bowl. Bill kind of gets, messes up here and there, trying to find that quarterback. It wasn't terrible. They made the playoffs that first year go around, but he had a really good situation, and they just kind of missed on things. They missed on the quarterback. They missed on signings. They missed on the offensive line.
On him.
And he got fired, and he rightfully got fired. He should have been let go by New England.
Do you think Patriots fans, though, now regret firing Belichick last year? If you look at the current situation, because it is dire in New England.
No, you know what? I don't think it's as dire as you think, because reading, I have on Twitter and like being in that fan base and seeing how they react to things on Twitter, they're very happy with Drake May right now. Like they're in the process of rebuilding of, okay, like we suck, but at least we know we have the dude. Like there's a path here. They're not as hopeless as like Carolina, where they're still guessing whether or not.
Bryce Young.
He's been playing well.
Carolina's a favorite this weekend against the Cowboys,
That's
Jimmy.
Crazy.
What?
Hey, Bryce Young has played, since Bryce Young came back from being benched, not bad.
He's been playing well.
Not bad.
They've been competing. They've been tanking great. They've been tanking perfectly. But all this to say, if Belichick, the intrigue here is if Belichick goes, and let's just throw it out there, if he wins a national title, he goes to college in this era where guys are leaving, where guys like Saban are jumping ship. They're getting the heck out of here because they don't want to be a part of it anymore. If he goes into this era of college football and wins a title for North Carolina of all teams, he cements himself undoubtedly, unequivocally, if he isn't already, as the greatest coach ever. And so I think there's more intrigue because he's part of this McAfee era of him. He's become more of an enigma. He's become more of a character. He's become almost like a character that you hadn't seen before, but he was already a character before that. And so it's like there's two Bills, and it's incredible. And now there's three Bills.
Trade
Chapel
30
Bill.
for 30.
There's New England Bill, Pat Bill, and Chapel Bill.
I'm intrigued. It was the whole thing is bizarro.
They're going to be good right away. There's no doubt. I have zero doubt that they are going to be good immediately.
Again, I think the measure of success will be the ledger, not the wins and losses.
I wonder,
because at this is a play. So this is two things. One thing you said there sparked a thought. Brady got a Super Bowl without Belichick. Belichick is chasing, I need one without Brady.
Yes.
Chipped on the shoulder, it's okay. Scott Frost has the same thing. You don't think one of his drives at Central Florida is to be so good that you forget about Nebraska?
He has. He wouldn't even mention him.
Mm-hmm. So Belichick has a drive to do something without Brady, but I think this is a move where the NFL doesn't want him anymore, and he can't be without a job. He's a coach. He's got a coach.
Wants to teach.
And he's a very good teacher, which adds to your point that maybe this works because that's in his wheelhouse. But I think he was like, I might not coach next year, and I like the media stuff, but I'm a coach at heart. I got to be coaching. I got to coach something. I could coach lacrosse. He said it before. And the North Carolina thing popped open, and he put demands out there. And maybe there's part of him that said, you know what, I'm going to demand so much.
They won't meet it.
That they won't meet it. And all of a sudden, they went down the path of, yes, yeah. That Board of Regents said, yeah, we'll do it. And then you're like, okay, we're through page 350 of your 400-page manual. Okay, we're going to do this. And then you're like, okay, here we go.
Well, he made himself the perfect situation.
Oh.
He did.
He's a manipulator.
He did. He made himself the perfect situation, and good on him. And like I said,
the length of the contract a little bit shocking, but
3 years,
5,
$10 million a year.
24-year-old's going to keep him young, so he's got 10 years in him.
What I was going to say though is that
she's her social media is woo.
She's hot.
You have to be hot to have good social media.
Well,
it helps.
I mean, that's
just a question.
In this day and age, yes.
Okay.
To be popular. That's not a coverall. There are, that's not 1,000,000% true for everybody, but it definitely, in this day and age, definitely does help. Doesn't matter. The idea that he's not going to be able to relate to recruits, the biggest problem in college football is some of these kids get to these teams and they go, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This guy doesn't know what he's saying. You have these kids who went 12-0, 13-0 in high school who never lost before, and they're losing games in college, and they're thinking, my high school coach was a better coach than my college coach. That's never going to be a thought in any of these guys' minds.
And it'll be about his staff, who he hires on his staff.
That'll be the recruiting thing, too. Like you and I have talked about with Rule, right? Like, get guys who are going to help you on Saturday and handle the Monday through Friday, right? For Belichick, it'll be the opposite. He's great on Saturday. You got to get guys that are going to have to handle the Monday through Friday. And they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine doing that. They're going to be, and you don't think there are going to be plenty of coaches who are currently sitting in coaching jobs right now who aren't going to want to coach for UNC, who aren't going to want to be under that Belichick tree, who aren't going to want to kind of take that aura and take the prestige of being with Belichick and move that along in their career, much like Saban was at Alabama, how Saban would take guys and basically resurrect their careers. It's going to be a similar thing. There are going to be assistant coaches who are like, you know what? I know I got a pretty good gig at Syracuse, but I wouldn't mind jumping ship and working under the greatest coach of all time.
Oh, it's
fascinating.
It is fascinating. And it has bumped Nebraska-Michigan from being a 11 a.m. kickoff because Big Nude Kickoff will be in Orlando on the 20th of September for Bill Belichick against, continued bizarro world, Scott Frost. North Carolina, Central Florida on the 20th of September.
It's going to be incredible. That's going to be must-watch.
And Frost played for Belichick with the Jets.
A year ago, if you were to tell me, or if I were to tell you, hey, the most watched game of the beginning of the 2025 season will be UNC versus UCF, what would you have said?
Yeah, I would have probably. You're just a hot take artist.
Yeah.
But that's on the docket.
That's going to be the top game.
That's
of
on the
week.
docket, man. Too bad North Carolina, Colorado not playing a non-con. All right, let me give you the lineup for the show. Sarah Baker Hansen is going to stop by at 8. Awesome. It's the end of the year, and she's got her list of her faves. Steve Sipp is favorite, so Sipple will stop by coming up at 8:30. Brian Edwards is in at 9:45. There is a kickoff to Week 15 of the NFL season tonight. A must-win for the Rams and the Niners. A good NFC West showdown that we will discuss, as the Niners are a slight favorite in that game, even though the Rams have played better of late and they're healthy. Plus, a lot of guys are, I'm back. Keanu Davis says, I'm back. Nate Boerkircher says, I'm out. But is he?
Ooh.
Well, he could be another one that is brought back in.
They're going to need it. They were to lose him. You now have problems that you didn't foresee having in a room that you thought was a strength.
People forget, though, about Mac. What is it? Markaway? The
Yes.
LSU tight end?
Yes.
That transferred and then got hurt right away? People forget.
He's still there.
He's still there.
You can't forget about Carden Nelson, who, they moved to wide receiver because he's a good enough athlete where they needed to use him right away, but they definitely could move him
And Thomas Fedoni, who loves Nebraska.
Clearly.
Loves Nebraska.
Hey,
I'm not being sarcastic. He loves
loves
Nebraska. People want him to get into the portal and take Foley with him. Thomas Fedoni loves Nebraska.
He'll be governor one day.
Good on him.
I don't know how much Nebraska loves him back.
I don't think he's a guy that
he loves Nebraska.
You should not. They should not tell Thomas Fedoni to hop in the portal. The guy is a good. They should not. They shouldn't.
Hey, Thomas, I was reading your aunt's social media.
Yeah, go in there. Hop in there. He's a good player. He's I'm not going to act as if I haven't added to this fire yesterday when I talked about what I talked about, but he is a good player, and there's no reason why you should be telling good players in your program, especially a program like Nebraska that's developmental, that is in need of a lot of good players, to hop in the portal.
All right. Plus, the 25 schedule came out. Win for Nebraska. So we'll go through the wins and losses.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, win, loss, win, win. Not a bad schedule. One of the better schedules Nebraska's gotten since they've been in the Big Ten, the way it sets up.
Totally agree.
So we will have about an hour of 2025 schedule breakdown. And then we will pour one out for Wisconsin's schedule.
Oh, I didn't see
that.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, Wisconsin could be 6-6, 7-5.
They got a new OC. They're going to be great.
And you might go, well, I guess they were pretty good. Their schedule is It's kind of, you know what? Some schools, except for Iowa, are getting what they deserve.
Sure.
But Wisconsin could be 6-6, 7-5 with that schedule, and you could go, they're pretty good, but 6-6, 7-5.
I have not looked at. I only looked at Nebraska's schedule. I honestly didn't look at too many other people's schedules. When we talk about Nebraska's schedule and then we parlay that into Wisconsin's schedule, I don't know who Wisconsin plays.
Which, by the way, they don't play each other.
That sucks.
Nebraska, Wisconsin do not play each
They
other.
have a trophy and everything. I never understood why they didn't lock that game.
You know what? They play enough in volleyball.
They do.
And hopefully Sunday is...
Do you think the volleyball rivalry adds to the football rivalry?
I think the volleyball rivalry is bigger than the football rivalry.
Well, without a doubt. But don't you think that, like, the fact that there's so much hate and animosity between those two teams and a lot of the, the people who root for Nebraska volleyball root for Nebraska football, vice versa with Wisconsin. Do you think that hatred kind of adds toward the animosity of football? I would say it does.
I think it's separate.
Okay.
I think it's separate.
I agree to disagree.
Because I think in football, you got your butt kicked.
Sure. Until this year, though.
Until this year. But volleyball is intense. Like Nebraska and Wisconsin are playing to win national championships, and they played to win a national championship.
We talked about this when I came and filled in a couple months ago. The greatest sporting event I went to was Game 5 of the World Series 2016. You were there.
Mm-hmm.
The second greatest sporting event I went to.
Kyle Tucker, by the way. I kept refreshing this morning when I got up. Okay,
look, I don't want to give up that much.
We're not giving up that much.
They're asking for top 100. They're asking for Paredes and
I'm okay with trading him. I got Matt Shaw.
And a top 100 product.
I got Matt Shaw. Paredes can go.
Fair enough.
I thought you said Schaub for a second.
No, we're coming to take Kyle Tucker from you. Change the pulse of the Cubs.
Nebraska versus Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Volleyball last year. I think it was after whatever.
After the Northwestern game.
After the Northwestern game. The second greatest sporting event I've ever been to.
Wow.
Second greatest sporting event I've ever been to. And I've been to Stanley Cup playoff games.
Did you?
And I've been to NBA playoff games.
Go to volleyball day?
Yeah.
Ooh,
and I would put Wisconsin
Wisconsin
versus Nebraska at the Devaney Center over volleyball day.
I see what he means. It was loud. I remember watching that.
Nebraska.
It was intense.
It was crazy.
Any event that the guy from Goonies is on the opposing sideline, it's going to be a banger.
That's a good one. I never thought Kelly
I was
like
wondering
that.
when you would
That's a
slip
good
it in.
one.
Well, that's coming up tomorrow. Nebraska, Wisconsin do not play tomorrow, but Nebraska and Creighton both are in action tomorrow. This show is off and running. SBH, Sip, Brian Edwards, all to come your way as we're here till 10 on Gary and Matt at 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in on a Thursday morning, Gary and Matt. Jimmy is here as well, and there are drones or aliens over New Jersey. You big alien guy?
No, not really.
Great movie. Great family movie.
I am anything that pops up on my timeline about aliens, I'm exploring. But they have these giant drones that are hovering over New Jersey, and they think they might be aliens.
Really?
Yep.
Better than us.
Yep.
I'm not. I get it. I understand the fascination. I'm not one, by the way, who like poo-poos on other people's like conspiracy theories or beliefs or whatever. Like
I don't think it's conspiracy. I think aliens exist.
Yes, they are among us.
If they are, great. If they
Good
aren't,
morning to our new
whatever.
overlords.
You know, I'm indifferent about it. Like, cool if you're there, cool if you're not. You know, I'll live my life unless, you know, you can lower the price of gas and coffee. I don't really care where you're hovering over.
Gas is good. Well, that's right.
So is coffee.
You're a premium guy. Coffee has gone up. Gas has gone down.
I'm a premium guy, but I'm very happy here. You got to understand that I've been in Chicago the last 6 months, so I was very unhappy over there.
What was gas going there for in Chicago?
So I'll tell you this right now, my full tank was 110.
Jesus Christ.
Right here at this BP over at by Dundee everything. It was $70.
Shout out BP.
Okay. I was in Sacramento on Saturday and Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The highest gas I saw was like $4.89 for just regular.
That's crazy.
It's like when we played out at Stanford, it was $7 in Palo Alto.
I went
2 years ago.
Does this place Dexter, Iowa? Was it or Dexter County maybe? When I was driving over here from Chicago, I just stopped in the middle of nowhere, Iowa. It was like $2.70 a gallon for premium. It was incredible.
Did you load up? Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Fill up a couple of gas
canisters.
No,
canisters.
I'm not that handy. I'm the least handy man you will ever meet.
That's good to know. Zach writes into the Equitable Bank inbox where they take banking personally.
Hi, Zach.
Gary at 1620 The Zone. Desperate move by UNC. He said, at least they are willing. Now, this is a Nebraska tone to this email. I know this is coming. At least they are willing to pony up to make big coaching moves rather than gambling on promoting unproven hires from within. And at least they are willing to pony up to have a top-level NIL instead of being like Nebraska, that is about a third of the NIL of the top football programs in the country. So that was that. So that graphic was shared yesterday. There is no transparency when it comes to NIL, and Oregon on that same list that was being quoted ad nauseum is 19th in the country in NIL.
So I saw that immediately when I saw where Oregon was at. I'm like, I stopped looking at the list.
Yes,
I'm
I
like,
did
this has zero merit to it if Oregon isn't at the very top.
Ironically, a huge push by 1890 begins today.
They did the whole meet the staff, on their Twitter, whatever, and then they're doing this $250,000 match. Hey, good on them.
Here is Andrew on the 42 Degree The Source hotline to begin the show. Good morning, Andrew. Andrew?
Andrew did this last time.
I don't think it's Andrew.
No, it's
Can we get back to Zach's question real quick?
Phone lines.
I want to get back to Zach's comment real quick. First off, John Butler is not an unproven hire. Okay? There's nothing unproven about John Butler. He's been coaching for 30 years now, started in 95, 29 years. He's been everywhere, not only as a DC, but a special teams coordinator in college football and in pro football. Not unproven. Secondly, what else was like it's desperate from UNC. What else were they supposed to do? Like hire Tommy Rees and cross his
How embarrassing is that was their backup plan?
Yeah. Like cross their fingers that Rees was going to be this hot hire. And then what happens if Rees is awesome at UNC and they end up winning games? He's going to go and leave them. He's going to go to a different team. That's, an actual football school.
So you're saying they hired Belichick because he's old and he won't jump to go to another job?
They hired Belichick because they're
desperate. They want attention. They want to get out of the ACC. They want to protect themselves.
Why is it desperate to have attention? I don't think it's desperate. I think it's just a good hire. I think it's a good move. Wouldn't you want your team to pony up a lot of money to go and get the absolute best coach they possibly can in order to win games?
Look at it this way. And we'll bring Nebraska into this discussion because everything revolves around Nebraska
Absolutely.
football. Would you rather be a quick fix or a long sustained?
A 5-year contract where
No. Not even. They're
okay. Long sustained.
Bill Belichick can't go 5-7 in his first year. Matt Rule could go 5-7 in his first year, 6-6 in his next, and 8-4. And then you go, okay, I can see this as being, there might be something here.
Sure.
Okay. Bill Belichick at North Carolina can't go 5-7, 6-6.
I agree. I agree with that. But I will say, this kind of added element to the contract of Steve being his DC and Steve being the next head coach would probably, I'm sure there were questions from people within the Board of Regents or the athletic department saying, hey, are we really going to put all of this resources and money into just having this guy for what will seem a max, 6 years, 7 years? He's 72. Maybe he gets up to 78.
This is only going to be a couple of years.
79.
Only going to be a couple
Are we
years.
really going to put all this time and effort and money into doing this if it's only going to happen for 3 to 5 years? To which some would say, well, then we'll just hire Steve. We'll have Steve be under him. Steve will be the long-term fix, so on and so forth. So that changes the tune. Is this a quick fix or a long-term?
This is not a long-term. They're chasing the ring in the next couple of years.
But hey, good on them. There's nothing desperate about. That's one thing. I hate the word desperate in that because I don't think it's desperate. You know what? If North Carolina is spending a lot of money to get a hell of a coach to win a title very quickly, everybody should be desperate. Everybody should be desperate. That if that's the definition of desperate, I want my team to be desperate.
Charlie Weiss, huh?
Seen that nightmare.
Yep.
Who's that?
It's a reason why I may have cirrhosis of the liver one day.
I
was
don't know,
media.
Charlie.
Oh, you have to Google Charlie Weiss.
Yeah. It'll make you want to go get a workout in after the show.
I've been here for 4 days, and the list of things that I have to study. And
Charlie Weiss is pretty well known.
Charlie
right?
Weiss is pretty well known. His son's going to be a head coach one day.
That didn't go so well at Notre Dame
or
the head coach
anywhere.
of Notre Dame from 2006.
Where is his son at? Because he was at
Lane's
KU.
OC.
Okay. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, Charlie Jr. and I have something in common. We're both alums.
What do you mean it didn't go well? They went 9-3 and 10-3. Is that not?
I keep reading.
What, did something happen badly internally?
Well, what did he end up with a final record at Notre Dame?
Do I have to add here? 19-6.
Google Charlie Weiss and pile of crap.
22.
Wow.
Yeah,
no, trust me. That's how he described his first team at KU.
Okay, cool. I mean, yeah, and then it all went terribly.
While eating potato chips and melted butter. In his
what there is no middle in this hire. This is either going to be great and North Carolina will get what they want, or it will not be good and they can move on quickly. And they're like, you know what, it worked. The thing, though, Bill Belichick isn't going to do anything different that the big boys are already doing.
But UNC wasn't doing that before, so good on them for making that transition to doing that. I'm not saying this is a great hire, and I'm not saying it's a bad hire. I think this is right down the middle. You have reasons to say, and you said that earlier. You could give me reasons as to why it's good, and you give me reasons as to why it's bad. But I hate the word desperate in this situation because you know what? In this case, desperate is a good thing because UNC went from a nothing program with an old head coach who at the best was coming in third and fourth in the ACC, which is now going to become a fossilized conference, to just in one fail swoop, they become a team that you are interested in watching in week one, that you're interested in following throughout the season, that I think and other people will think will be immediately competitive in college football. Just like that, after one hire. If that's what we're calling desperation, you should want your favorite team to be desperate. And you're saying you're discrediting them a little bit, being like, what they're going to be doing over there, all the other big dogs are doing. They weren't doing that before. They went from not doing that and wallowing in pity to now they're going to be competing. When you
hire a guy like Bill Belichick, you're supposed to be, earth-shattering, groundbreaking, all of this stuff. There's nothing that they're going to do that's different compared to what already the big boys are doing.
Okay, that's great.
But that's why you hire a guy like that, because you're trying to get an advantage.
You hire a guy like that because you're trying to do what the big boys are doing. There's no advantage anymore. What the big boys are doing have maximized what you can do in this space. Okay, SMU is doing it. They're doing what the big boys are doing.
But
they're
you have
not competitive.
You have to be different than them. So
how are you different though? Through better coaching.
Where would you rather go, Georgia or North Carolina?
Who's giving me more money?
That's fair. That's fair. No, that is fair.
That's how it is nowadays.
But Georgia probably has money as well. Maybe Georgia, North Carolina is not a fair comparison.
But I will say this. Okay. There's a 4-star prospect who's the 4th best player in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In Georgia, he would be wide receiver number 5, would probably have to wait a year or two in order to play. And they offer him $800,000. North Carolina can offer them the same amount, but as opposed to that guy being number 4, he'd probably be number 1 or 2, and he wouldn't have to wait around. He could just step on the field right away. And so what would that kid do? I'm getting $800,000 from Georgia, and I'm getting $800,000 from North Carolina. I can play right away as a Tar Heel. And when you're talking about coaching, right here, they're pretty like Kirby to Bill, maybe not from a college perspective aren't the same, but from a X's and O's who is like just in terms of football knowledge and football schemes, they're on par. They're on par. It's a compliment to Kirby to say he's on par with a 6-time Super Bowl champion. 8-time if you're counting the assistant coaching Super Bowls.
Coming up next hour, we'll continue this, but we need to get into portaling.
Yeah. This is a great combo, though. I mean, it's awesome to talk about something as unique as this.
Charlie Weiss. You might want to look further into his career. Yeah.
Is there any other controversial figures that I should like?
Charlie Weiss was a little bit controversial. So I got a quick Charlie Weiss story here.
And
before
he was a terrible head coach.
When I was living in Fort Myers covering high school football, Sammy Watkins was at South Fort Myers High School, which ironically is across the street from where the Minnesota Twins spring training complex is.
Yeah.
The Lee County Sports Complex. But South Fort Myers was unbelievable football team. I mean, they had dudes. The quarterback went to Miami. He, of course, went to Clemson. So Sammy Watkins, head coach, told me the story. When Charlie Weiss was at Florida working under Urban Meyer, they did not want to let Sammy Watkins get out of town. And Clemson really recruited South Florida and Southwest Florida really well. Charlie Weiss walks in. So they brought Sammy Watkins into the head coach at South Fort Myers High School. They brought him into his office. And Sammy was like, I don't want to go to Florida. I want to get out of Florida. I really like Clemson. Walked in. Charlie Weiss rolled his Super Bowl rings out on the table and he said, kid, if you want to win one of those, you'll come play for me.
And I've heard he's done that to multiple people because I heard those stories when I was
That's
covering
great.
Kansas football.
That's great.
It didn't work.
I mean,
take a drink every time you mention Tommy.
Sammy said, no, he looked at his head coach was a guy named Grant Redhead, and he looked at him and he just got up and walked away. And I said to Grant, I said, so what about the Super Bowl rings on your desk? And he goes, there was this long, awkward pause. And then, Sausage Fingers picks him up and puts him back on his fingers and walks out of the school, never to come back again.
Rode off into the sunset in his gator.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Former Chiefs offensive coordinator, Charlie Weiss.
I'd fold like a chair at a kid's soccer game. Like I'd be like, okay, coach, I'm with you. Like that didn't work. I feel like that would work. I don't know.
That's a different approach. Just he rolled the Super Bowl rings out on the desk.
Did he like blow on him like 4, 5, 6?
I don't know. I don't know if he did the Trae Young rolling the dice on the Knicks logo last night, but he just kind of rolled them out on the table.
Are you craps guy? What's your casino game?
I'm a card guy.
Yeah.
I want to learn. Like I played roulette when I was in Vegas a couple weeks ago. I want to learn more about craps because everybody tells me that's the odds are pretty good.
They're pretty good.
I just don't know enough, and I don't want to. I don't want to screw people at the table.
Well,
there.
you can't screw people at a craps table.
Well, I don't want to. Because I don't know enough.
But you don't want to be an inconvenience. Yes. I don't
want to be that person that sits down when you're playing blackjack and they don't know what to do, and you're like, come on.
Yeah.
That's
no. We'll talk off air.
Sarah Baker Hansen, Steve Sipple, Brian Edwards. That's the lineup for you on the Thursday edition of Gary Madden, 1620 The Zone. All right, we have been schooled on craps.
You're into it. Like I told you how to do it. You're into it. You just gotta.
I got to study a little bit, but I get your philosophy.
You just keep kind of putting it on the numbers, and then the more you bet, the more you win. And then, but you got to have a number in craps. You got to have a number. You got to be like, I got 60 on the board. When I get to 180, I'm pulling it all off. And then you pull it off, and you go, okay, I got a 120 profit. And then the pass line hits, and when the pass line hits or seven's rolled and the thing's over, then you rebet, and then you can put 90 in and say my number is 240.
Okay.
And then when you put 90 in, they roll a 7 right away and they take all your money.
That's the main takeaway here is they're going to take our money. But he's going to teach all of us zone guys how to play craps, and I'm here for it.
Look, it's a great. Also, too, the thing I love about it is that you can play craps at a casino for you can be there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and just keep rolling.
So that was my appeal when I started to ask, because I like to sit down and play blackjack. I like to play poker, but sometimes I'm in over my skis and I'm very selective on where I play poker. But every time I would see somebody playing craps, it would be like they're there forever. So I was like, okay, how do you play this? I don't want the basics. I want to know how to win.
Oh no.
So I just, okay.
There's other little ancillary rules too. There's a bunch of things that you can bet. I taught you the basic strategy.
Okay.
You can bet on a hard.
This isn't going to get me thrown out of a casino.
No.
Okay.
All
right.
Hard numbers.
You're setting me up.
So there's a thing called hard numbers. Don't laugh. A hard 6 is a 3 and a 3.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you bet on a hard, those are the best odds for you to bet on a hard 8, a hard 10, a hard 6, a hard 4. Snake eyes is a massive, that's a massive odds. You put money on that. That's when people make a ton of money. They just never hit. You also lose a ton of money.
All right. When we going?
Whenever you want, man. I will.
Content.
I get a little paycheck tomorrow. I get my first paycheck.
You get, you haven't even, whatever happened to the days you have to work at a place for 2 weeks before you get a check?
This is great, though. He'll buy the coffee thing.
I'll buy the coffee thing, let's go to where we go. Would you go to Council Bluffs or would you go to
stay in Nebraska?
Yeah. Warhorse, I think, has a craps table now, or in Lincoln has a craps table now.
I don't know if the Warhorse here does.
Okay.
But I'm sure we're going to find out quickly by somebody that is a craps fan.
Yeah, I know.
Sean writes in on the old Twitter machine at Gary Sharp 1620 or at Matt McMedia. My brother swears Charlie Weiss set KU football back for at least a decade.
He ain't wrong. Between
I did my studying. The guy sucks. He's terrible.
Between that and the EF5 that was Turner Gill, that's they almost dropped the damn program. God bless Lance Leipold.
Charlie Weiss was bitter.
Can I just
They sue Notre Dame?
Mm-hmm.
Is there an encyclopedia of college football from 2000 to 2010 that I can just buy and read?
Probably starts with www.
YouTube.
Did I do 4 W's or 3?
That's 3.
Oh. Just need to study up a little bit.
It's okay. You're Notre Dame guy. I thought maybe you just rattle it off.
I hate Notre Dame.
Then you'll love Charlie Weiss because he drove them into the ground.
Yeah, you would be a big fan. You'd be like, Charlie Weiss might be the greatest coach at Notre Dame since Rockney.
3-9 in 07 and got run over.
People are telling me that Parsegian, it was right up there. Now, I think Charlie Weiss was probably a tick ahead of him. And then I would throw Willingham and Bob Davie in there.
Oh, yeah.
Just think about the stretch before Brian Kelly took over at Notre Dame of coaches that they had. To go from Brian Kelly to Marcus Freeman to make up for a stretch run of where they had some post Lou Holtz.
Yeah.
Who wasn't lighting the world on fire at the end either.
You like Marcus Freeman?
I do.
I like him a lot. He's going to be up for the Bears job, apparently. Yep.
Say no.
Yep.
Say no.
Yep.
Stay in South Bend.
Notre Dame.
Yeah, I gotta trust Kevin Warren to make the decisions for my football franchise.
That's comforting, isn't it?
Yeah, so comforting. He might just cancel the season. He just might
soon.
He just might be like, you know what? We're not going to play football in 2025.
Now, what's he doing with that stadium? A guy that is fumbling the stadium deal is going to help hire a new head football coach?
You don't want to waste a segment on something that doesn't affect this market. It's just terrible. You can't park there.
We have a lot of Bears fans here.
Just to kind of put it out there, and any Bear fan listening to me who's been to a game knows what I'm talking about. That stadium, Soldier Field, to educate the people, is the second smallest stadium in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
The only stadium smaller is Cleveland. Okay. Third biggest market, charter franchise, massive fan base, second smallest stadium. Do you know what their sellout streak is?
For the Bears?
Yeah.
It's pretty lengthy, right?
No, they don't have one.
They don't?
No.
One.
They don't sell out. So you're thinking, how do you have the second smallest stadium in the third biggest market with a loyal fan base? How do you not have a sellout streak?
Bad football.
No, you
Hard to
can't
get to.
park. You
Hard to do
cannot park. The minimum amount of walking that you have to do in order to
Now,
get
that is
to
true.
and from a Bears game is 4 miles. 4 miles.
Minimum?
Unless you're
Damn.
a season ticket holder.
Right.
Unless you're a season ticket holder and you get to park in that parking lot, which, by the way, still is like another half mile from the stadium. Like you have to, 4 miles is a lot. You probably have to walk like a mile to a mile and a half there and a mile and a half back.
So I'm so glad that people are advocating that the Big Ten football championship moves to Soldier Field.
No.
Ew.
Absolutely not. That would be terrible for everybody.
It would be a terrible fan experience if they ever moved it out of Indianapolis.
Going to Bears
It'd be more
games.
likely to go Indianapolis to Vegas than go Indianapolis to Chicago. Maybe even Indianapolis to Minnesota where you could be indoors.
The worst, the Bears games are the worst fan experience, period. They're way too expensive to go to. They're terrible to get to.
Why are we avoiding the football on the field?
And also the football on the field is terrible.
Yesterday was an interesting day in the world of the portal.
Yes.
Nebraska got one back in Keona Davis, who simply said, "I'm back," which is a win-win for Nebraska. He was there for 2 days and came back.
So happy.
I know. I thought you had jinxed him, but he said, "Nope, I'm back. Maybe I'll put on a little bit more weight. I'll watch more of what I did against USC, tracking down a running back from behind. I'm good to go." Everybody's excited.
He is going to be so good at football. He's long. He's fast. He's athletic. You and I, we talked about this. Nebraska's the type of program where if they're going to have a strength at the D-line, they have to build it.
Mm-hmm.
That guy is a foundational piece. He's a building block. The fact that they got him back is massive. Absolutely massive.
I think he'll get a little bit bigger. I mean, he put on a lot of weight.
He's got a lot. He's got a lot to put on too.
And I don't think it'll affect his speed. So, like, he will be a Corey Campbell project, but that's a win for Nebraska. And then there were some departures. There aren't Bellevue West guys that stay in their original location very long. So the Bellevue West triplets are gone.
Yes.
Your favorite memory of the Bellevue West triplets, McMorris, Hall, and Kalen,
when they took
all committing, and now they are all in the portal.
I'm not going to be the guy who takes the cheap shot here and says, "Oh, this is, discredit Omaha football or Nebraska football or anything like that," because I don't think the quality of Nebraska high school football or the quality of prospect has anything to do with these 3 guys moving on. I just think it's very telling, where Nebraska thinks they have their strengths on their team in terms of talent and numbers, and where they don't think they have their strengths on their team in talent and numbers. They're begging running backs and tight ends, or running backs and D linemen to come back. And they're allowing quarterbacks and wide receivers to walk away because they feel as if they're fine in that position. And frankly, this is a team, we've talked about it ad nauseum. They have to cut a lot of guys. They have to let a lot of guys go through the transfer portal. They're okay with losing some wide receivers.
And they may get 2 of the top 3 out of the portal.
Yeah.
If you go Dane Key and Deuce Robinson.
So,
yeah, there's no space.
No space.
But the story about, so Davion Hall probably should have never came to Nebraska, and it surprised Nebraska when he committed. I was intrigued by Isaiah McMorris, and the stuff you heard is like they were both swimming in it at the beginning of the camp. And then Isaiah was starting to make strides, but he's probably also looking at the numbers, and you're bringing in some older wide receivers, and you haven't made it onto the field yet. Then with Danny Kalen, they paid him for a year of loyalty. Come here, you're our backup plan if Dylan goes down, but you're going to get paid, and then we'll help you move on. The thing, though, it's such a great program, and I'm a huge fan of Mike Huffman, a fan of his coaching. I'm friends, is what is up with Bellevue West kids? Because it's not just the guys, and there's a lot of them that go to Nebraska. There's also a lot of them that go elsewhere around the country. That's a good enough program that they're placing players all over the place, is that they don't stay in one location their first spot. Now, when they go to their second one, it seems like that's where they start to have success. The one player in the last cycle of 5 to 7 years. A.J. Forbes, I wish would have stayed at Nebraska. A.J. Forbes would have made himself a multi-year starter. He would have been a multi-year starter on the offensive line, but he transferred, and then he had a really good career at Montana. That's one that stung. But I don't know what it is with the Bellevue West kids that their first spot, they get out, and they're not all created the same. I mean, the reason why Danny Kalin is leaving is not the same as Keegan Johnson, but when they go to their second spot, whether it be a Ducker or a Keegan Johnson at K-State, it seems like that's where they start to prosper. So I don't know what the dynamics of the original recruiting is. I know there's a pull of staying in state, going to Nebraska. It just hasn't worked out. It's a weird run of Bellevue West guys not working out. Like even a Jalen Bradley, who had a monster high school career, especially his senior year, went to Nebraska and it just never clicked. And maybe his interest was not all the time with football. Just an oddity when it comes from one of the better high school programs in the state that produces a ton of Power 4 FCS talent.
I would wonder what Coach Huffman would say. What his hypothesis as to why this is happening. Because as you mentioned, it's not as if these guys are bums in their second location. It's not as if these guys go to other places that they don't succeed. They're still really good college football players, and they were hell of high school football players as well. You know, Betts is another one, right? He was a Bellevue guy. Like, you know, those were other things off the field. But regardless of it, I wonder what Coach Huffman would say, because I think it is an interesting dynamic, the fact that these guys just can't figure out the first place they go to.
There is another in-state player that got into the portal, and that is Nate Boerkircher. Gus Johnson will be very disappointed. Gus Johnson is really hoping that Boerkircher stays.
Mark's long-lost son.
Or, good call there. Or ends up at a school that games are on Fox that he can still do his broadcast. But Nate Boerkircher is in the portal, and he's an in-state kid that wants to play in the NFL. Now, I have thought that for the last couple of years, that this is a guy, if he develops and his usage, he will be an interesting prospect to put on an NFL roster to give him a chance.
Couldn't agree more.
But his usage has never been super high in terms of catches. He ended up with, 6 catches this past season, and 5 of them came in the last 3 games?
6 catches, 102 yards.
Yeah.
17 yards per reception. That's actually I have 100 yards and 6 catches.
That was 5 of the 6 were in the last 3 games, correct?
2 catches
when a certain DGAF showed up.
Last 3 games.
So here's Nate's deal, and I like Nate a lot.
I do.
He wants to play in the NFL. He wants to play one more year of college football. He doesn't want to play it at Nebraska, but he can't see himself playing anywhere but Nebraska. So he's in a really odd spot of what he's going to do next, because he knows that he's got to play another year, and it would help him get to the NFL. Could he be pulled back in? Yes. But I think with the tight end room moving forward, whether he's one that says, I'm back. And again, he doesn't know that he wants to play at Nebraska, but he can't see himself playing anywhere but Nebraska. That's a weird dynamic, but he's an in-state kid.
I couldn't imagine. No, it totally makes sense to me. I think that Nate has been a victim a little bit to his strength.
And that is?
His literal strength, how strong he is.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, you look at a guy, he's 6'4", he's 230, 220, around that. He's a really strong guy. You look at a dude like that, and in the offenses that they've had, and the offensive coordinators that he's been with, Scott Frost, Mark Whipple, Marcus Satterfield, now Dan Holgerson, where the tight ends haven't been utilized maybe as much as you would want them to be. And in those offenses, to be fair, Scott did use tight ends a lot in his offenses and his iteration of the Big Ten, but he was too young to really be starting. And in that, Austin Allen was used a ton.
Austin Allen might be on line 1 to have a conversation with you, but continue on.
Fair enough. Regardless, he's really strong. He can they want to use him as a run blocker, and they want to put in those situations where he can block, and Nate's going to block, and Nate's going to crack a back, and Nate is going to do this. And hey, when we run traps to the left, we're going to pull Nate off the wing, and we're going to throw him that way. And he's getting all the snaps, and he's doing a good job doing that. And so they look at him and how strong he is, and how athletic he is, and how tall he is, and we're going to say, all right, we're going to use him in this way, and we're going to utilize him as a run, as a blocker. And I think Nate would look at you and be like, okay, great, like he's a good kid and he's going to do what he's told. At the same time, guy can catch passes, the guy can run, the guy can run routes and be useful on the field. And I think Nate knows, and we all know, that if you want to be a tight end and you want to be drafted, you got to get passes, you got to get touchdowns, you got to be a big target, you got to be that safety valve. And they just don't use him in that way. And you would think that maybe he would be encouraged of the fact that in his 3 games, he was utilized way more at the end with Dana Holgorsen, and maybe that can translate into next season.
Do we know what the future tight end usage will be like in a Dana Holgorsen offense?
Do we know what any of these usages for any of these positions will specifically be?
I think running back and wide receiver, we have a pretty good handle on.
After 3 games, though? Things can change. I do think, though, you're right. You're alluding to the fact that tight ends aren't going to be used a lot. It may not be used as much as we have
such a desire around here to the tight end to be used. We love quoting the lack of usage of a Ethan Carter, a Kyler Reed. We love to have tight end usage, but then there becomes the other part of that position, which who's going to be coaching that position? I mean, our guys that are in that room going, man, I love my position coach. That position coach is going to help me get to the NFL. If I want to get to the NFL, don't I stay in a program that has a position coach that's going to help me get to the NFL, regardless if I'm used a ton or not? So you have Fedoni, who loves Nebraska. You have some younger players. You probably have a decision on what is the position called that Carter Nelson's going to play. And then you've got Heinrich Harburg, who I think would be firmly in the mix to play a little tight end in the 2025 season. So what does that position look like? And then also there's some young players that redshirted last year that they are very high on. I think it would be ideal if I got 87 is coming back, but I think it's up in the air.
I think you bring up a great point with the position coach, because they hired one, Bob Wager, who there were even questions if he was qualified to even coach that position when he was brought in from being a high school coach in Texas. Then he doesn't even make it to the first game of the year. So they put Josh Martin, who is an offensive analyst. He's no tight end whisperer. And then
who still helped with the tight ends this past year, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, because Satterfield was still, they had mentioned that in a press conference, that Satterfield was still going to be the offensive coordinator. So Josh would be in that room, tidying things up when he's not there. And then Satterfield becomes his tight ends coach. Some could say where, with his interest and what he was coaching and what he was trying to accomplish, was he really present in that room and as a coach and whatnot? And so now you're at the point where you have to think that Satterfield isn't going to be the tight ends coach next season, despite the fact that he's still on the team, on the staff as a tight ends coach. And so you have a new offensive coordinator, where you're right. You're probably going to be looking at a lot of usage from the running backs and the wide receivers, and not so much from the tight ends.
Maybe not a lot of usage, but I'm saying
you
kind of know how they would be utilized.
Yes.
And kind of their roles of the way the offense would look.
And you don't know who the coach is going to be, and you don't know what your role is going to be. And for Nate, on top of all of that, he may not even be tight end 1. He very well could be tight end 2. Very highly unlikely, but he could be tight end 3. And he wants to play in the NFL. Now, for Nate, what are his options for him to be a high usage tight end? I would probably look at programs that aren't in the Power 4 in order for him to accomplish that. I think that he would probably have to go to a MAC team, or to a Mountain West team, or to a team. I don't think he's like in the American or in a conference where he's still in a group of 5. He's still in that the 5th, 6th, 7th best, conference in the country. But I don't think that if he's going to get that usage that he wants, I think it's highly unlikely
So I was asked this
He goes
question.
to a Power 4 school.
Is he more valuable to Nebraska or someone else? Like Keona Davis, Nebraska. Nate, friggin' Gus Johnson. Nate Boerkircher, more valuable to Nebraska or to somebody else?
Probably someone else.
Okay.
I think there's a team in the MAC who would look at a guy like Nate Boerkircher and who would run probably a heavy ground and pound style offense and say, this is our tight end. This is the safety valve. This is the guy we're going to go to in the red zone. This is the guy that we're going to go to in short yardage. He's going to be our curl route. He's going to be the seams on cover 3. He's going to be the guy who stretches out the safety in cover 2. I think that he would be incredibly valuable at places and I'm not just saying, just those smaller conferences where running the ball is more of a focal point. I feel like he would be the focal point in the pass game.
Luke Lindemeyer is also in that room. We saw him get more snaps this year. Not necessarily as a pass-catching tight end, but he was involved in one of the key plays of the entire season. So it's an interesting room that
Lindemeyer's
when
blocking
all the pieces stop, what it looks like. I mean, I think it probably opens an ideal situation for Heinrich Harburg to have a lot of snaps at tight end.
Headley Ramar writes in the YouTube comments, if you're tight end 3 at NU, you aren't playing in the NFL, regardless of where you go. Was Jack Stoll? Was he tight end?
No,
he wasn't tight end 1 though.
For part of his career, they basically have had for a stretch here of tight end 1A and 1B.
Yeah. Who is the tight ends coach that recruited him? Boerkircher. Is he a Frost guy?
He was recruited under Frost.
UCF?
I don't know what the relationship would be there.
Yeah.
Well, you want this to be a Noah Vedral?
I'm just saying, I mean, any guy, there's still guys who are on that team who were recruited to Frost, who I'm sure some of them, despite the fact that he got fired and it didn't go the way that it went, would still like him. And that's always an option. And Frost is at a point where they need players at UCF.
I think, though, in this case, the guys that were recruited by Frost departed.
Yeah.
Like if you were like Ernest Hausman, you were recruited by Frost. You had a relationship with Frost.
Sure.
You left well before this offseason.
The Frost guys are already gone. They've already moved
that
on.
Were loyal, and that was the reason they came to Nebraska. Yeah. Coming up at the top of the 8 o'clock hour, Sarah Baker Hansen stops by. Steve Sipple in about an hour as well on Gary and Matt in 1620 The Zone. All right, good Thursday, everybody. Welcome in, Gary and Matt. We have an email from old man Doug. Are you ready?
Hi, Doug.
Is this your first lengthy email from Doug?
It might be, actually. I don't.
Yeah, because we've gotten 2 calls from him.
He said, interesting hat day. Can both of you explain them?
Oh, sure. I fish in northern Minnesota, Brainerd, Minnesota.
Oh, that's right. We were talking on the phone when you were fishing.
Actually, funny enough, here, I'll show it to the camera. I wear this green wristband. It says Gull Lake right here. So always have that on. Gull Lake is one of the places I fish in Minnesota. Love going up there. And the Doctors is a little small company in Minnesota that is owned by the fishing guide that we go with. I've known him for a very long time. It's owned by his 2 sons. So the Doctors is they go and they replace docks and they fix docks and they remove docks. And so they kind of just go around those different Minnesota lakes and areas and whatnot. And so they just do dock repair or dock installation, or if you have a removable dock in Minnesota, they'll come in with a big raft
at the end of the season.
Yeah. So the Doctors, it's actually
I like that hat. That's a good looking hat.
It's actually signed by my fishing guide. It says John Larson, good fishing. So this is my fishing hat.
Did you ask him for his autograph, or did he
No,
sign
John's a character. John, he goes, he's very, very funny. And John goes, I'll get you a hat, Matt. Don't worry, I'll get you a hat. And he goes, hey, man, I got you a hat, and I signed it for you. How about that, eh? And like, he just signed it. So it's very nice. Love it. He's a good guy.
My hat is a weed company in California.
Shout out weed.
That I invested in. I mean, that's what it is.
I see nothing wrong with it.
I just love.
I see nothing wrong with either of them.
I'm not laughing at you wearing a weed company hat. I'm just laughing at the fact that we went from a really sentimental story here of my love for fishing and, just all the great people that I've met and represented. And you go, yeah, I get high. And I
not say that I get high.
And I put money into a California company and I wear their hat. It's a good hat.
Why can't you combine the two? The weed, the fishing sounds perfect.
No.
Gorgeous day.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way I could be high and fish at the same time. Maybe you get a better feel. You think you get a better
There goes the
feel
endorsement possibilities.
for the rod when you're high?
I don't know what you're doing with your hand, but I don't think so. You're like showing me what you're doing.
I was going like this for the people.
Yeah.
Going like that.
More from Doug. As I said with Davis, let's recruit Boerkircher just as hard. We need him. He may just be testing the waters to get a better deal, a la EJ and Davis.
Do you blame him?
Are we doing the leverage, looking around, or I need to get in the portal because I got to get a spot because it's musical chairs and I don't want to be left out, but I also don't want to leave. So instead of leverage and looking around, it's I'm gonna protect myself, but I know that they're leaving the door open for me because that's not the case with everybody.
Yes,
because that starts at the top. Is Dannon has put down the edict that we got to do some numbers here. We're not going to play this game of 1 foot out, 1 foot in, but we will make exceptions for a couple of guys.
Sure.
So, and I think in Keona Davis, his tight relationship with Terrence Knight, and he leaves, and you're a young kid, and you're like, oh my God, what's going on? Am I going to stay here? I have no idea who I'm going to be playing for. What am I going to do? I'm a long way away from home. I'm just going to get in the portal, and then we're going to see what happens. I don't know if he was someone that was like, yeah, I'm going to need an extra mil, but it may have been just, okay, everybody take a deep breath. I'm protecting myself, but I'm open to listening. We have a conversation. You know that we want you. We know what you're doing here. This is the best fit for you. And he says, you're right. I'm good. I'm back.
It definitely is it's a smart move, I think, for both Emmett and Keona.
Don't you think it's a smart move for every player to put their name in the portal after 1 year? Every year?
Because, well, you got to be careful now.
You do, but
you got to be careful
you
just brought up a great point, right? Dannon has thrown down the line. If you're in, we're not doing this 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Once you're in, except
there are exceptions.
If you are Keona Davis or Emmett Johnson or whatever. And so I would warn against a guy like
Ja'Cory Barney.
We don't
guys
know.
Would be on the list.
More than likely, right? More than likely.
Yeah.
Isaiah McMorris and Davon Hall hopped into the portal because they want to go somewhere else, right? Because they think that they are better off playing football at a
They're
going to
lose the numbers game.
But what if, just hypothetically, what if they did try to hop in the portal to play that leverage game, to play that, all right, I want more money game, or I want this, and they hop in, and then Nebraska goes, okay, I'll see you, right?
That's the consequence.
That's the risk you play.
Yes.
So which is why I disagree with you and say not every kid should hop into the portal 1 year to get more money. But if you are guys like Keona and Emmett, where you know that you're valuable, you should, because you should hop into the portal. And then what if a really good situation opens up for you? Like, what if you're sitting there and you're like, wow, this school really, really likes me. I have a good connection to their coach. They're paying me a lot more money. Hey, and then, whatever else. And then, you end up going there. So if you have the leverage, if you're a good enough player to have leverage, you should 1,000,000% hop into the portal.
Okay, so I should put it that way. Not every kid, but if you are a starter, if you are a frontline player, every year hop in the portal, get what you want. It's free agency. Then we're going to have contracts. Then we won't have free agency. Then we won't have chaos. Then we'll have rules. If
you're a valuable player, you should go into the portal. And just look around. Just take a peek. Just see the sun, see the clouds. What is it for me? Was that $800,000 raining in from Texas Tech? Okay, I'll take it.
Couple more from Doug. He said, hot take, Fickle will be fired after next season. Wisconsin has the toughest schedule of all time, and they are totally very average. This equals a firing.
Couldn't agree more. Doug, after they played Western Michigan in week 1 of the season, and barely won, I said, this guy's going. You just can't bring the air raid to some places. There are just some places in the country and some conferences where it's just that air raid and that style of offense is just not going to work.
What will be the style of offense they'll be running Jimmy under Jeff Grimes, who people are overwhelmed that he is coming to Wisconsin. People excited. At Kansas are that's a bad sign.
It's a great sign.
When your school loses a coordinator and you're like, that is the greatest thing that's ever happened to us.
Got Matt Lubeck back. Coach Zabrowski's going to be calling the plays.
What kind of offense are they going to run?
Well, they're going to run the ball. They're going to get back to running the ball.
Okay, so
I wish them all the success.
That's what Wisconsin does. They go Miami of Ohio, Middle Tennessee, Alabama, on the road in T-Town. That's their non-con.
Yeah.
Maryland, Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota. I do like what the Big Ten did this year. Week 14 is all rivalry games.
Yeah.
Like UCLA, USC is back on because the game's in South Bend.
That was now
weird. Well, because when it's out in Los Angeles, it's the last game because of the weather, but it's in South Bend this year, so it's moved up. But you can play UCLA and USC. So all the rivalry games are on the final weekend, which I think is a great thing for the Big Ten.
Yeah,
that's
agree.
A 6-6, 7-5 schedule at Wisconsin. And you might be a good team, but you're like,
the problem with that schedule is that it's not necessarily, you play Alabama, you play Michigan, who we're thinking is going to be better, right? You play Ohio State, you play Oregon, that's tough. And then on top of all of that, all of the teams that you play, all the other teams that you play, you don't get any gimmies. You don't get any like, this team is terrible. They have to play Illinois, which is a good program under Brett Bielema. You have to play Minnesota, which is a good program under PJ Fleck. Indiana, Sig's got it rolling. We'll see what happens with in Washington, right? Like, I was always going to be super competitive and really disciplined. Like, that's, to me, when you're looking at a Big Ten schedule, you boil down into two things. How many of the top teams could we play, and how many of the bottom feeders can you play? And unfortunately for them, they got one bottom feeder in the Big Ten.
No Nebraska, Wisconsin going to be odd.
Yeah, I hate it.
That's why you need a live animal.
One final one from Doug. It was reported on Twitter that Iowa spends more in NIL than Nebraska is estimated by the NCAA. They also say Michigan State and Indiana are far ahead of the Huskers. I don't buy that for 1 second. Consider the source of the estimated. Yeah, that list, which
no way.
That's why we didn't even mention it yesterday. That you have no idea how much is being collected. It just so
1890's books aren't open, right?
No.
If their books aren't open, then how the hell do you know?
Now, I don't know what the number would be, but if you win, turn on the faucet around here.
How many?
Indiana won, and the faucet kind of turned on. It wasn't a trickle. It was kind of a... If you win at Nebraska, and that's why like 2025 is vitally important, because you got a stadium project that'll be announced here.
Oh my God.
Pretty close. We're a couple of weeks away from the stadium project being publicly announced. So you've got that, and then you've got NIL revenue sharing, but it's going to slide under an umbrella of Nebraska. If Nebraska wins, the faucet turns on and it goes or whatever your faucet does. Your faucet trickle or steady stream?
Steady
stream. Is it roaring?
We got good plumbing.
Okay. Here is Random Mike. Good morning, Random Mike.
Might be my dad.
Hey, Matt, sky's the limit, baby.
Appreciate it, Random Mike.
Are you familiar with the intersection of Foster and California in Chicago?
Yes, I am.
Because I was born a few blocks away from there.
Okay. I have my uncle's Mexican restaurants that we owned it's Milwaukee and Western. I know that's not exactly at Foster in California, but it's not too far of a shout from you. That's cool, man.
Are you a big Cub fan?
Massive Cub fan.
He is. We're good,
All
Mike.
right.
We got 2 Cub fans on the show.
Gary, now I know why he got the job. Hey, listen.
Damn.
Underutilized Jalen Lloyd. What's the story on him?
Oh, great question.
My goodness, if that's a good pass early in the Iowa game, history's probably different.
Yeah. I don't know what, Jalen's got a budding track career where he could be making a run at the Olympics in 28.
That's unbelievable.
I don't know what he's weighing right now, but that wide receiver room is going to have a few bodies that are going to be added. So who's going to be grabbing the catches? Yeah, I don't know where he's sitting at. Yes, I do. I'm a huge Jalen Lloyd fan. I know why he got off to a slow start this year. He's battling a little bit of an injury. It didn't click like it did at the end of last year for him, but he's an easy guy to root for. He's a good teammate. He does what is asked. He works hard. I'm not sure why he didn't start showing up on the field until the fourth quarter. And I'm sure he was asking the same question. But now that there is a different OC and a different wide receiver coach, does that change what Jalen Lloyd looks like in a Nebraska offense?
Boy, I hope so.
For me, Mike,
I think we all agree.
For me, Mike, what I was always confused about was Ja'Cory Barney had a ton of success with the jet sweeps and the jet touch passes and kind of just moving him across the line of scrimmage and then just putting the ball in his hands. Jalen's has that speed as well. I never really understood why it was just unique to Ja'Cory and not something that they could do with Jalen as well, because that speed is something that you just can't ignore. And he's a good enough football player that we've seen in his freshman year to be on the field and consistently be on the field and perform. And so Gary kind of mentioned it. You had a lot of cooks in the kitchen there over him, right? They wanted to get the ball more so to Banks and Nair and Ja'Cory and whatnot. But in your regard of him being underutilized, I never understood why Satterfield just wouldn't call the same package that Ja'Cory was getting called, but put 19 in there because defenses weren't expecting 19 to do those plays. And I think that would have caught him off guard. And with his speed, he could have been running all over the place.
Yeah, and just stretching the field. I mean, anybody watching Raiola history, he throws the deep ball as well as anybody. And how many did he actually throw? And Lloyd was the guy that he could throw it to. In fact, that first pass in the Iowa game, really underutilized. And I totally agree with everything you're saying about John Butler. I was interested in what Ken O'Brien said about him. Did you catch that?
Oh, yeah, on Tuesday.
I mean, it's not Coach O'Brien.
Yeah, when he was on the teleconference, on the Pinstripe teleconference, right?
Right.
Yes.
Smart guy, throws a lot at you, and so many good things what they had to say about him in Buffalo. So I think it's going to work out real good with our coordinators. I mean, you guys agree?
The alignment is pretty good. Mike, I don't worry about under Matt Rule not having a good defense. I mean, in college, he's had good defenses. It's just the biggest thing with John Butler is, can he stand in front of a room of defensive players, command the attention, and motivate them, and teach them and get them to follow the plan, and then coach his position coaches, and then can they help him? But Phil Snow will be a good asset for John Butler. I don't think we're reinventing the wheel with John Butler as the DC. We're running what Matt Rule wants to run, and Matt Rule gets out the way, and you have Butler and Snow running a defense with good position coaches and hopefully players that can fit the scheme.
Yeah, and what he did in Buffalo was extremely impressive. And I heard him say the adjustment he had to make was realizing that he's dealing with younger kids, not mature pros. That you can't throw too much at them too soon. No, I think he's going to work out just good. So I'm pretty optimistic. But hey, take care, guys.
Mike, thanks for the phone call. Mike. That was your first foray with Random Mike.
Yeah,
legend,
good guy.
Well, I'm glad that you just didn't like a bad guy, bad call.
No,
bad call.
Good call.
Good call. Good call.
You
Bad
can't
call.
turn on fellow Cubs
We've been
fans.
on the Jalen Lloyd train for a while here. I mean, he's a really, really fast guy, and Nebraska is in need of really, really fast players. And he's just not a dude. He's a dude who didn't pop, and there was never a good excuse as to why he wasn't popping.
It's a mystery. It's one of the mysteries of the 2024 season.
Just run some mesh and get him running across the defense. I know that's such a simpleton football thing to say, but I
like running the mesh in the snow.
Yeah.
That's a good play to run in the snow.
Mm-hmm. Is it a good play to run in the snow?
Yeah. Your foot, your
it's hard to get grip.
How to get grip.
Yeah.
There. So there's one thing about, one thing I pushed back against last year was Jalen's just a deep ball guy. Look at the Wisconsin game. And he did have the obnoxious stat that, his catch, he was averaging 60 yards per catch or whatever it was at the end of last year, he's only a deep ball guy. Well, that's a farce. But the deep ball was really odd in Nebraska's offense. I think Dylan wanted to be good at throwing the deep ball, but there were a lot of times that they were underthrown. But he wanted to prove that he could throw the deep ball. So then you went looking for the harder play instead of the easier play. So as part of the just conundrum of the offense for the first 9 games of the season.
I think Dylan has a young quarterback problem in terms of he doesn't always know how strong his arm is. And what I mean by that is that sometimes he will underestimate or overestimate how strong his arm is. So sometimes he will underestimate it and he'll hit it right over, right? And then after he throws it over a guy or throws it too hard at a guy and they drop the ball or whatever, he goes, all right, I have to take some off of this one. And when he takes some off, he overestimates how powerful his arm is. And then he just needs to have a little bit of a better understanding from his mind to his arm of where, how do I need to throw this ball in this situation? Where that comes from is reps, right? It comes from reps. You just have to keep playing. You have to keep throwing. Mahomes is so good, and Russell Wilson is really good too, because those are two guys who have really good arms and they have really good understanding of how hard they have to throw the ball in order to hit certain spots. Wilson, above all, because he's one of the best deep ball throwers ever. And so with Dylan, sometimes there is an advantage to having a weaker arm, not having the super cannon, because there's not as much, you don't have as much variation, right? Between the hardest you can throw, it's a 50-yard pass. So, if a guy's running 50 yards down the field, you can just whip your arm and it's going to get there. Where with Dylan, where he can throw it 70 yards, there's not a lot of times where he's going to have to put the ball 70 yards in the air all the way down the field. That's just not, football just rarely works like that, right?
But it didn't seem like he wanted to, a lot of times.
Oh, yeah. But did you watch his high school tape? That's what his high school tape was. His high school tape was 7-step drop. All right. This Georgia recruit's down there somewhere. Right to him.
I miss those days of Trey Palmer. Sarah Baker Hansen's going to stop by after 8. End of the year, she's got her list on 1620 The Zone. All right, SBH, Sarah Baker Hansen coming up here in a little bit. So there haven't been a lot of jobs that have been open, but the hirings have been a little bit like jaw-dropping or going, I'm back. So Bill Belichick to North Carolina, Barry Odom to Purdue. Dan Mullen looks like he's going to UNLV.
Good for Danny.
They need to put butts in the seats at Allegiant Stadium. I think that's one thing with Barry Odom is you'd show up to play at Allegiant Stadium and the Las Vegans would not be there. Maybe 25, 30,000.
Barry's just a ball coach.
Only
Compliment.
Lower bowl. Yeah, I think that's an okay hire for Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have, Scott Frost back to Central Florida, Belichick, Barry Odom. And then also yesterday, I like this because I think all he does is win outside of Michigan. Rich Rodriguez is back.
Yes.
What a bizarro world we live in that Rich Rodriguez is back in a place that he was adored, loved. I understand why he went to Michigan, but at his, because he's 61 and he's been a banger at Jacksonville State. I mean, Logan Smothers swears by him, like loves him. To go back to West Virginia to finish his career, that's a really, really good hire.
61, good job.
Another bizarro thing. The reason why Nick Saban is at Alabama.
Oh, give it to me.
Rich Rodriguez turned down Alabama.
Really?
I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I did not know that.
Turned down Alabama, and then they pivoted to Nick Saban.
So they wanted him.
They settled.
They wanted him after he had 3 great seasons at West Virginia. And then Rich went to.
And he stayed. He turned down Alabama, stayed at West Virginia, and then the next year he went to Michigan.
Gotcha.
And then they hired Saban. Rich Rodriguez is a winner. I really like that hire. I mean, West Virginia is one of those programs, especially football in the Big 12. I don't know why it didn't pop with Neil Brown, because I like Neil Brown.
And they did too.
Yeah, but he's one of them. Man, he is a mountaineer through and through. They will rekindle. And people in West Virginia can find money.
Sure.
I mean, they can find money if they like the product. Which you can say that about a lot of different places. If people like the product, they will pony up.
I mean, that's almost any sport, I think.
Probably anything in life, right?
Yeah.
If you like it, you'll pony up.
You'll pay for it.
We will chat with Sarah Baker Hansen. She's coming up here in a little bit. Steve Sipple stops by at 8:30. Lots going on. What will today bring in the world of college football? Portaling. We're not even to the playoff yet. We're not even to Ohio State not having a home field advantage.
We're not even to the Heisman Trophy ceremony yet.
No. Those odds keep getting better for TH.
Hell yeah, brother.
That $5 investment you made.
Hell yeah,
that's
brother.
That's going to bring you some good food.
I'm going to buy some ladies some drinks who won't go home with me. Let's go.
Whoa.
I could have just left it at the first part, right?
I thought that's what he was going.
It's always great. Everybody loves some self-deprecating humor. It's always a little.
Did you share your line? Was that off air or on air yesterday?
What?
About drinks.
Oh, his go-to?
What?
Your go-to
line. I can't remember.
We're not doing that. My mom's listening.
All right, that's fair.
There's our answer.
Maybe you've used it on her. SBH. As practice. Didn't you practice with your mom?
Yeah, Gary, I kissed my sister to practice.
I didn't know you had a sister.
Jesus. This is going to go down a really bad road really quickly.
Is that why she left the family?
No, she's still with the family. She's 18. That's even worse. Why did I say rude?
We're all good, everybody.
Legal? It's Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. All right, glad to have her back for the final time in 2024. It is our favorite foodie, where you can find her work at sarahbakerhansen.com or on flatwaterfreepress.org. It is SBH. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. You're going to meet my new co-host, Matt McMaster. But first, because it has happened since we last chatted, your thoughts on Maha is returning in 2025. I know you've been involved in the past in that.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we talked, I actually knew that Maha was coming back in 2025. I just couldn't tell you that. But we're all super excited to see the festival follow through on its announcement to be back in downtown Omaha. Just really looking forward to what I think is one of the coolest days every year, or almost every year, to be an Omahan. And I'm excited about who we have in the lineup so far, which we'll be announcing in the coming months. And I feel like the general kind of thoughts I heard from other people online and on social media and that I've chatted with is that they are just excited as excited as we are. So it was a cool day to be able to announce that.
Now, there's part of me, because I live in the Stinson Park area, that loved having Maha right there. But I understand the move back to the original down at the waterfront, and I think the renewed Maha will make it bigger than ever. One of the things about Maha coming back is Outlandia is going away, which was, they were able to land some big indie bands in the last couple of years. But now that the focus can just be on Maha, how much bigger will Maha grow in your opinion?
Well, I can tell you just the footprint of Maha from the space in Exarban to the new space down on the riverfront. The new space on the riverfront is actually twice the size of the space that Maha took place in Stinson Park. So just the space itself will be able to accommodate so many more people. And it is sad to see Outlandia end, but what's really cool about what has happened in the interim, that Maha took a break and we sort of, recalculated what we're going to be able to do in the future, is that the 4 original founders of Maha have actually rejoined the Maha team, and they are all very involved in Maha 2025. And, it was those 4 individuals who started this thing in the first place. So I feel like the festival and the city of Omaha is lucky to have them still interested in working together to make Maha happen, and to really for the city of Omaha to have a signature event happening in our new downtown park like Maha. So we're just really grateful to them for coming back onto Team Maha, and for everyone to kind of put all of their efforts and influence toward one amazing event.
Same time of the year, late July?
I think the date is actually in early August.
Okay.
But yeah, summer, kind of a high summer event, and we're really looking forward to, like I said, being in this new location downtown. I think it's just going to be such a beautiful day. It's actually August 2nd, 2025. At the Heartland of America Park at the riverfront. So many people and partners have come together to make this happen, and just such a cool event. And also, it's going to be locally produced by 1% Productions, Omaha
booking
agent, who also produced Outlandia. So I think everyone can kind of know what's coming.
It coincides because we'll get into your 5 best new-ish restaurants in Omaha. Matt lived in Lincoln, and he's new to Omaha. And yesterday, did you end up going to the sandwich shop?
I didn't. I did not. I was recommended to go to Get Real by Gary, but unfortunately, we get off the air at 10:30 here, and it did not open until 11. And I still have to make a trek back to Lincoln every day. But Sarah, I want to say, new co-host here, really excited to have you on every other week and talk to you. I love food. Okay.
Okay. Well, we're going to be a perfect
that is my love language. All right. Everything that I love about the world comes through food. I'm a foodie. I cook a lot. I love living in Chicago. I grew up in Chicago, so I just grew up with a lot of really good food and a lot of good grubbing places. So I'm so excited to talk to you and learn about where are the best spots to go.
Yeah. Well, I'll do my best.
Yeah. So no pressure.
For me.
So Sarah and her husband Matthew, they spend a lot of time in Chicago.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, so do you have a favorite in Chicago that maybe Matt has been to as well?
Do I have a favorite? Oh, I thought you were asking him if he had a favorite.
No, you,
Chicago
Sarah.
guy.
No. What's your go-to in Chicago?
I mean, I love Italian beef. We haven't gone on a full exploration of Italian beef, but we have gone to a few places. I would say a handful of places.
Sure.
Actually, Matthew's here, and he's like trying to tell me a name of a place, and I can't read his list.
There's
oh yeah, we also love going to the Loyalist for a burger.
Okay.
We love. There's so many great places in Chicago. I would say one of the places that we've returned to again and again is a place in Logan Square called Lula Cafe.
Okay.
Familiar with that spot?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, I don't think I've probably ever had a dining experience in Chicago that I didn't like.
Yeah.
And it's been so cool watching Chicago really become a food town.
Well, I think like being so I worked in the Loop is the last place that where I came from. And for me, a lot of my experience with Chicago food was grub, right? The Chicago hot dog, the burgers, there's so many places off the top of my head. Rand's Red Hots, Wolfie's, Gene and Jude's, that like all Super Dog. It's like all burgers, all beefs, all hot dogs, whatever. But recently for me, I've been discovering like the fine dining of Chicago. So the Kindler, D'Agostino's and the Dearborn and whatnot. And so I think what's so unique about Chicago is just like you have the grub, you have the disgusting, dirty food that's so good to eat, but you feel terrible about it afterwards. And then you also now transitioning into the just, prime luxury and like beauty of like Michelin stars and whatnot of like fine dining experience. And so that's why, I mean, there are a lot of people in Chicago, there's bias there when they talk about their own food, but they call it some of the best food in the country because you can get best of both worlds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where would you say, like, just for me, I know we got to get to your top 5 list and whatnot, but like, where does Omaha kind of rank? How would you describe like the cuisine of Omaha to a newcomer like me?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, you kind of named all the big hits of Chicago food or the dishes that people think of when they think of Chicago. And I think if you were to sort of describe Omaha to a person, I would say, the thing that we are most known for is beef, right? We're known as the beef state. We have tons of steakhouses, not just in Omaha, but also in Lincoln, of course, and across Nebraska. I mean, there are so many great steaks to be eaten in Omaha, and I would say that is just that's something that people always ask about. And I think anytime there's a visitor, they're like, "What steakhouse should I go to? Where do I get the best?" I mean, I think Omaha's probably signature cut would be like a bone-in ribeye.
Okay.
And almost every steakhouse that you visit in Omaha is going to have some sort of signature version of that, no matter what. And so I would say that's probably what we're best known for, though I will say the Runza probably comes in pretty close second there as a thing that defines Nebraska. And Omaha. But of course, the Runza restaurant was started in Lincoln, so you probably know just as much about that as I do.
Sure. All right. I give you, so this is back-to-back years. When the Salted Edge got going, it was kind of a soft opening that spread by word of mouth. And you came on and talked about your experience, and then it became very difficult to get a reservation. That was when that first opened. There was when Dumpling Empire over in Ralston opened up, we had a long discussion about dumplings on the show and how this place was just starting. And now every time I've gone in there, it has been extremely busy. And your recommendation has been referenced many times. So that's the power. And they both end up on this list. Dumpling Empire from 2024. You can go through the rest of your list if you'd like, but those are back-to-back years where I think you started the momentum, and people and the business has been. I mean, Salted Edge is a tough place to get a reservation. Dumpling Empire has like blown up in Ralston.
Yeah, it was tough for me to get a reservation at Salted Edge.
Oh, wow. No polls, Sarah.
I had to plan out.
Wow.
I mean, it's funny. I've had a few people talk to me in the past year about how Omaha has become, in some ways, much like Chicago, a reservation town. It used to be that pretty much any, even if it was like a hot and new place, a couple weeks would pass and you'd be able to get in. And some of these new places, and I think Salted Edge is included in this, I think Memoir and Clio, both that opened in the Old Market this past year, which aren't on this list in particular. It's an honorable mention, Memoir is, but they're places that you have to get a reservation. Like, you cannot just walk in the door and expect to get a table. In fact, most of the time you're going to be walking back out the door because it's full. So yeah, this list is kind of something that I've never done before. I took a look back at the last 5 years, kind of just before the beginning of the pandemic, to think through what I thought the 5 best restaurants that had opened in Omaha since that time. That's what these lists are. And so there's 5 main ones on here that starts with the most recent one, which is, as you mentioned, is Dumpling Empire. And I say this right in the story, but I have been going on and on about Dumpling Empire because I think it's so good. And one of the things that makes me most excited about it is that it is introducing a completely new food to Omaha, which is soup dumplings. And we've talked at length, so I won't go on. You can go read on flatwaterfreepress.org both my longer review and my recap in this story that came out today. But I think there's another one on this list that kind of also did the same thing in 2022 when it opened, and that is Koji. Mm-hmm. And Koji was Omaha's very first yakitori restaurant, which, if you've not been there and you haven't tried it, yakitori is basically grilled meat served on a skewer. And it's opened by David Utterback. It's in Countryside Village. And I think it's just become kind of one of my favorite spots. Like, I have been to Koji kind of countless times since it opened in 2022. And I also mentioned in there that it is hard to get in. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we can only get a seat at the sushi bar, or we can get a seat after 8 p.m. because it's become so popular. And, I think that's great. Also, I think you have to really plan of where you're going to eat these days in Omaha, because places are full of people dining out.
So would you, with Dumpling Empire, right? You're talking about that. Mm-hmm. Like, is it, in terms of like, what would what's their best dish, you think, there?
I mean, there's 2 things I would recommend people try. I mean, number one is the tricolor soup dumplings, which have a pork meatball and a kind of broth in the center. The second thing I would really recommend trying is the chili oil noodles. They hand make all of their dumplings. They also hand roll and cut their noodles, and then the noodles are cooked and tossed with kind of chili pepper oil, actual peppers, and then bok choy. Just absolutely delicious. There wasn't a dish that I wouldn't recommend. And there are a lot of dishes that I still want to try that I've seen people talking about on social media. And I think there is kind of one thing that each of these places on this list may have in common, even though they're very different restaurants, is that they all kind of have, they're doing things their own way, right? Mm-hmm. Like Dumpling Empire is serving dishes that no other restaurants in Omaha are serving. And I think Dolomiti, which is another restaurant on the list, is doing kind of very unusual topping combinations on pizza and using meats that you don't see every day. Like, they have this amazing mortadella sandwich. Mortadella is a sort of really fatty, I mean, speaking of like things that you love to eat that might not be the best for you, mortadella is definitely on that list. But this mortadella sandwich is like spread with pesto and some homemade ricotta, and then it's served on this warm kind of pizza crust adjacent round of bread, and it's so delicious. And that's something that, I don't know another restaurant in Omaha that's serving a mortadella sandwich. Yeah. It's just kind of something that's truly individual to this particular restaurant.
You ever have a mortadella sandwich before?
One time.
Oh, speaking my language, dude, they are so good. So yeah, let me harken back to this, Sarah. When I asked you, what's Omaha known for? right?
Mm-hmm.
You said steak, bone and ribeye. You want it. That's what it is. But now, here we are. We're talking about your top 5 restaurants, and you've given me a dumpling empire, and you've given me a koji, right? And you've given these different sorts of cuisines here. And so I want to know, is this a change that you've seen in Omaha a little bit, where maybe customers are kind of changing their tune and going a little bit away from the ribeye and the steak and your classic American dishes, and they're leaning more into this Asian cuisine and different sorts of cuisines when they're made authentically in the right way?
There is a steakhouse on the list. We just haven't gotten to it yet.
Oh, sure. But so far, what you've talked, the places that you've talked about so far.
I think you make a good point. Is that I think Omaha is so lucky because we're a food town that likes to eat all kinds of food.
Yeah.
So I think we're supporting all of these great old school and new school steakhouses, including the one on the list, which is the Committee Chop House in the Blackstone District. But we also are supporting Dumpling Empire, and we're supporting Koji, and we're supporting incredible sushi restaurants. And, I was looking at social media before this, a friend posted about how they went to try a new pho place, so Vietnamese. And I think about, South 24th Street, incredible Mexican food. So,
sure.
We're a city that likes eating out enough that we, for a town of our size, have this incredible diversity of cuisine. Yeah. And we also have chefs here who are willing to take a chance and make a different type of food and give Omahans, who I think in the past decade have become much more sophisticated diners, something new to try. And overwhelmingly, I think people will go and try that. And we talk about the breadboard at Salted Edge quite a bit, but the chef there is doing some really kind of interesting, cool food. He's originally from Trinidad, and he grew up in the Caribbean. So, and he's got dishes with sort of, those spice blends that he has made that remind him of his childhood. And he's got, just food that you wouldn't necessarily think is what's going to be at a restaurant like Salted Edge. And so, for him to be finding success at that restaurant making those types of dishes, I just think is really cool. And the fact that people will order them and want to try something that they've never had before is something that I think is really great about Omaha.
All right, on this list, and I just went and tried to make a reservation, you can get into the dining room at 4 or 4:15 on New Year's Eve at the Committee Chop House.
Good luck.
Early dinner.
Don't eat lunch.
Yeah. But this is like not just New Year's Eve. I like the Cottonwood Hotel for a staycation, especially during the summer with the pool and everything else out back. But this has really become a monster steakhouse in the basement at the Cottonwood.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things about what they do at the committee that is a little bit different, and I've liked this since I first wrote about it when it was the first place that I went to for like a sit-down fine dining dinner after not dining out in a restaurant dining room for more than a year. And that was in spring 2021. And I went back and looked at my review and I was like, wow, like the city and the world were in such a different place and such an odd place at that time. But that dinner that I had at the committee was just such a joyful moment and a reintroduction to what cuisine and food and fine dining could be about. And I feel like, I've been back there so many times and I feel the same way about that dining room. And I love their kind of mix of, they're very modern in some ways, but they also embrace kind of the truly old school dishes. And one dish that I've had, didn't have it on that opening visit, but I've had it since then, is just an absolutely fantastic beef Wellington. A dish you don't see all the time, a dish that takes a lot of time to make. So, it's the steak wrapped in puff pastry with layers of prosciutto and this paste of minced mushrooms and onions and herbs that all gets cooked in butter. It's absolutely over the top and decadent. You order it for the whole table. Everybody, eats it. And it's just so delicious and so old school, and they execute it on such a high level. And I think they also do that with another dish, Baked Alaska, which is just a dessert that, you hardly ever see it. Like, it's so retro, but they just do such a good job with it. They light it on fire at your table, and it's got ice cream in the center made at, their neighbor down the street, Coneflower Creamery. it's so decadent and so over the top. And I think that is really what I love about dining there. Their execution is it's next level.
You can find Sarah's 5 faves, the 5 best newish restaurants at flatwaterfreepress.org. We'll get you out here on this, and this is a question from listener John. He wants to know, what feedback have you heard from the Legacy Chop House, which is in the old Jams out west that's now been open for a little bit?
I've heard that it's opened. I have not yet been there. I've actually heard of several steakhouses, not several, maybe 2 or 3 that have opened kind of on the edges of Omaha and in West Omaha that have yet to be to. So I've heard people kind of talking about this open. I haven't talked to anyone who's actually dined there, so I don't have a formed opinion of it, but I'm really excited to kind of see what's happening in West Omaha in terms of chef-driven restaurants, and I'll go visit all of them.
Hey, fantastic. I always appreciate it. Say hello to your wonderful hubby, Matthew, and have a great Christmas, a happy New Year, and we'll talk to you in 2024, or 2025, I should say.
25.
Yes.
25.
Yes.
Thank you, Sarah.
That's Sarah Baker Hansen. You can find her faves at flatwaterfreepress.org.
I got to say something.
Go ahead.
I slipped up.
Sure, show.
We're just talking Chicago, quote unquote, fine dining. I said D'Agostino's. That's like a chain restaurant. Okay. I meant to say Berghoff's.
I've heard of Berghoff's.
Berghoff's is great.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I meant. It's on Adams. If you walk all the way down Adams towards State, Berghoff's, it's an awesome place. I know some of the people who own that place as well.
So can we drop your name?
No, not there. No, not at all. I think they used to own it. I think they used to be a part of it. It's a big family. Anyway, I just wanted to throw it out there. I said
Diago. Now they're in prison.
I said D'Agostino's, and I just don't want my Chicago food cred to go down because D'Agostino's is a ratty like pizza place.
I don't know if you were shouting out Mike.
No,
D'Agostino.
I just
who
slipped
lives right
up.
here in Omaha.
Just slipped up.
All right. Steve Sipple. Familiar with Sip?
Of course, I'm familiar with Sip.
How's your relationship with Sip?
We did this last time.
Was Sip on last time?
Yeah, we did this when I filled in. Him and I were cracking jokes back and forth. He loved it. We talked about going to Tavern on the Square together.
He will join us coming up here in a little bit. It's Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. It is, Rich, the fact that North Carolina's bowl game is against UConn in 2 weeks at Fenway Park.
Oh.
So Belichick will be up in the suite watching the game, you think?
Oh, good question.
But Fenway Park is where the first time North Carolina will play, where Belichick will be the head coach. Now, he won't be on field. I would doubt it. But that Fenway Park, that's kind of rich.
Don't leave it out of the equation.
Hey, good luck to all those North Carolina players then. That bowl, which, by the way, the Yankees beat the Red Sox again. That game doesn't start till, 1 Eastern time?
Yeah.
Same day as the Pinstripe Bowl. Yankees go first.
Oh, yeah. ESPN rules.
They got Max Fried. Red Sox got Garrett Crochet.
You know what? I kind of like what the Yankees are doing. Like,
no, they had Cole and Fried. They paid 8 years, $218 million to a left-hander.
They're
probably pitch well in that ballpark.
They're probably going to
see Rodon and Fried go down this year.
They're probably going to get Bellinger in a trade too. And Belly's a good bat.
We're going to get Kyle Tucker. We're going to be fine. Kyle Tucker's going to hit third, play right field for the Cubs.
If they trade
Suzuki
Belly,
will be a designated hitter. They'll hold on to him.
If they get Belly, and then
PCA will be leading off.
I love PCA. If they get Belly and they get some prospects back in that, and then I'm totally okay with giving up a haul for Tucker at that point, because then you're just going Belly for Tucker, and we need Tucker way more than we need Belly.
That's correct.
And the problem is too is that a lot of our prospects, we have a lot of center field, outfield prospects.
Yes.
That we can bring up and play.
Got to get Davis healthy in the.
We've been trying to get. We needed to get Davis healthy for 3 years in a row.
I know.
I mean, every year
I saw him play in Iowa. Brendan Davis and got hurt again. Quickly here before we get to Sip in the next segment, the top college football audiences of 2024 are out.
What is this metric here? Is like people who watched the games.
The million of people that watched the game.
Okay.
The SEC has the 2 top ones.
Can I guess? Texas
against
Georgia.
Yep. You want to say it again?
Texas versus Georgia.
Those are the 2 top games in college football this year.
And then the third one.
Okay, hold on. 16-6 is the Georgia-Texas SEC game on Saturday, which is on ABC and ESPN.
Oh, 16.6 million people.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, the third most, well, you'll get this.
Oregon, Ohio State.
No, Michigan, Ohio State.
Michigan, oh.
That game is,
Fox,
I
guess you're
Fox
right.
makes
You're
a lot
right.
of money off
Big
that.
noon,
12.3.
You're right.
The 4th highest rated game, SEC game.
Okay. I'm going to go with Alabama, Georgia.
Correct. 12 million. And the 5th highest ranked game in the Big Ten.
Did I already say it?
You said one of the teams.
Okay. So it's got to be big. Ohio State, Penn State.
Oregon, Penn State from Saturday night.
I thought that was a good guess.
Hey, the conference championship games with no divisions actually might have turned out to have the best matchups.
You know what I thought? Because the reason why I went Ohio State, Penn State instead of Oregon, Penn State was because the big noon kick. I thought you'd get a little. Is Ohio State, Penn State on that list? Top 20?
They are
I'm sure.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6. They are 8th. Ahead of Ohio State, Oregon.
What did Colorado? I know it's not on that list, but what did Colorado and Nebraska get?
6.
And what's the low?
so.
What's the
7.1 puts you in the top 20.
What's that 20th game?
Georgia, Mississippi on the SEC network, 7.1 million.
Yeah, shoot.
Oh, no, that was on ABC. Excuse me.
It was on ABC.
So the SEC or the Big Ten had 11 most viewers this season, including 15 of the top 20 most watched games.
That is, can I be honest with you? That's a little low. 11 out of 20. I thought it would be closer to like 14.
Well, they had 15 of the top 20.
Oh, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they had the 11th most viewers. The only non-SEC Big Ten game that is on here, Notre Dame, Texas A&M.
I knew it.
So, and then Georgia Tech, Georgia. Also Clemson, Georgia. So,
I sense
there's a lot of Georgia.
Georgia Tech, Georgia is a funny one.
Can't drive.
Because I don't
TV.
think.
Because guys kept walking from one end to the other during overtime. That's the funny part of it?
No, because that's not a game that I think was getting whatever. What number did it get?
$8.5 million.
Yeah, that game didn't get that number because of the pregame hype, and it didn't get that number because everyone's excited to watch it. It got that number because you were like, holy crap, Georgia's losing right now.
Also,
and then it was just like it was like one of those classic things. Everybody was telling their friends, hey, tune in and watch this game right now.
But don't you think, so I guess I didn't see what Iowa and Nebraska drew, because Iowa and Nebraska and Georgia Tech started at the same time, right?
Uh-huh.
Georgia Tech, ABC.
That went on for 3 more hours after Nebraska was
exactly.
over.
Nebraska, Iowa was on NBC. So $8.5 million, Georgia Tech, Georgia. How much?
Let me look. Let me look. I'm looking.
And it wasn't Joe Hamilton against Champ Bailey.
There's a lot of Ohio State on here. Ohio State, Indiana did $9.3 million. There's a lot of Texas. There's a lot of Georgia, Bama. The only game.
Is there a SEC team? Is okay, 3.6
for Iowa and Nebraska?
Yes.
Well below 8.5 for Georgia Tech, Georgia. Michigan, Texas did $9.2 million. Wow. That is the only other game on the top 20 that Michigan did. Michigan, Texas?
Yeah.
But there was so much hype.
There was. I think a lot of people, though, that was early enough in the year
helmet game
where Michigan was ranked really high, where people were probably still watching that game just out of
week 2.
Yeah, out of awe of like, oh my god, like I can't believe that's that was the same. That was Colorado Nebraska week.
Yep, that was the 11 a.m. kick.
What a good week too.
That was
because you had Iowa State, Iowa that week too, and then you had Kansas, Illinois that week.
Bert, I'm sorry.
Wow.
Eat crow
You
here.
just included those last 2 games with Texas and Michigan. I see how they fit.
Well, no, I'm just saying like that
school.
was no. I'm not saying in comparison. I'm just saying overall for like a week 2 is a pretty crappy week typically. You know, like you'll get a couple marquee matchups here and there.
No, usually week 2 is like the
banger.
Week
Do you
1,
think?
we need to be better on opening weekend of college football. Like we did get Clemson, Georgia, and we got LSU, USC on the Sunday night where everybody is watching.
Yeah.
But then Monday we had BC against Florida State, who ironically BC's starting quarterback in that game just transferred to Florida State.
Castellanos, yeah. I saw that.
But week 2 is usually pretty good because then week 3 is your layup into your conference season.
Sure. Is your Houston Christian, if you will.
Yeah. Steve Sipple will join us. I'm not a fan of the Houston Christian game.
You're not a fan of it?
I hate those games.
Yeah.
That's why should I pay for that game? But we'll not have to pay for a road game until week 6 of Nebraska's 25 schedule. A first true road game. The first game will be in Kansas City either on a Thursday or Saturday, but the first true road game for Nebraska won't be until they go to Maryland, week 6, and then they go to Minnesota the following week. Sip joins us next on Gary and Matt in 1620 The Zone. Let's welcome in from 93.7 The Ticket. Early break. Jake and Bill on 3.com. It is Steve Sipple. Good morning.
Hey, Jake.
How are you guys doing? I just got to tell you right now, just excuse my voice. I sound worse than I am. I feel fine.
Okay. You got a little stuffed up. You got a little cold you got to get rid of before you go to New York City?
Yeah, it seems like a lot. Is it going around in your state, going around Omaha?
Yes. We've it's actually gone around the station a little bit. So nobody's immune.
I am. I have an elite immune system. Actually, my doctors have told me that I have immune system of an iron bar. So I tell you, Steve, don't pass it on to me, but I really don't have to worry about it.
Matt, welcome to the show. It's right away. You know you're accomplished in this world when you can say the words "my doctors." Wow, my doctors.
I'm a grown-up now, Sipple.
What's that?
I'm a grown-up now. I'm not that 19-year-old kid at the press conference anymore. I'm a grown-up with my own show and my own doctor.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Sip. I appreciate it, my man. True professional, Steve Sipple.
Hey, before we talk some Nebraska ball, let me ask you this, because you know the inner workings of how he works. Why is Scott back at Central Florida?
I don't. Here's why, in my opinion. The conversations I had with him that were more extensive in nature before he came to Nebraska were largely about hard to leave here because of the recruiting base. There's a lot of factors, but you think about the kind of style of offense he runs, or he ran. We'll just say he ran down there before. You needed a lot of skill. You need fast, skilled players. Pretty much every offense does some more than others, though, right? And he loved that aspect of it. And then I always would tell people when it became apparent that the Nebraska job was going to open back then, and that Frost was available, I always try to counsel people, this isn't a no-brainer. It's going to be a very tough decision for him. And I always was struck by people's reaction. It was tough for him to leave. He loved it there. And he liked not being the center of attention. Some coaches handle that part of the world better than others. Their world. It's that's not a world that everybody wants, to be the center of attention all the time. And so he can disappear in Orlando. He couldn't disappear in Lincoln. But those were two of the things.
Sip, I'm going to say I'm not going to fully bring Gary along in this, but I'm calling the Pinstripe Bowl the end of the first chapter of the Matt Rule era here in Nebraska. Okay, I'm calling it just the end. What is in that first chapter, in the first 2 seasons of the Matt Rule era, what do you think is the most important decision that he's made?
Ooh, God dang, that put me on the spot. The most important decision. There's a lot of decisions.
Yes. A lot to choose from.
I hate to say it, but I don't know what you're looking for. If you're looking for positive or negative.
Oh, you can positive or negative. Positive or negative.
Decision was a big one. If you're talking before the fact, just the hire. Anytime you put together a staff, there's huge decisions there. Now, if you're talking about recent vintage decisions, the ones he just made were big, and you could. Yeah. Phil Snow, John Butler, those are huge decisions. We don't know how it's going to play out, though. So yeah, I don't know. There's so many. Maybe I think of life a little differently than you.
Sure.
In covering head coaches, they make big decisions all the time. Yeah. So it's hard for me to. Okay. I guess what I'm saying, Matt, it's hard for me to pick out one.
Okay. So let's pivot here. Let's pivot to this. When we look back at the Matt Rule era, Okay, let's just look back at it all, right? When it's all going to be said and done, whenever it is going to be, how monumental do you think the hiring of Dana Holgorsen is going to be?
Depends how long he's here.
Exactly. Whether despite the end, are we gonna is this? Do you think the decision to hire Dana Holgorsen to bring him in, is this going to be like the coup de grace? What we're going to look back on, whether he's successful or unsuccessful?
I'm not willing to go that far. Okay. Just because I don't know how it's really. I look at college football so much differently than I did 5 years ago or 4 years ago. Everything seems kind of fly by night. I don't know. My guess is Holgorsen won't be here very long. If you get him for a year, maybe you'll get him for a year for sure. And then I don't know about after that.
Okay.
So I don't know. I can't say that was the most important decision Rule has made because I have no idea how it's going to work out.
Sure.
And I have no idea how long he's going to be here. So I can't say it. I just don't. It could be a very impacting decision.
Yeah.
I just want to make clear, I love that acquisition. I think it could be incredibly important, but I'd have to know what it looks like in year one, and I'd have to know if there's a year two.
Are the chairs done moving, you think, with Matt's staff, or should we expect something post-Pinstripe Bowl?
No, I don't think the chairs are done moving. I mean, there's a secondary coach to hire, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's one thing. I think there could be other moves, or there just could be other guys that move on. And sometimes those are gray. Sometimes those things kind of overlap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's someone who moves on, but it was quietly suggestion. I always use the example of Sean Watson at Nebraska, where remember that Matt's a little young for this, or way too young for this, but Sean Watson was here for a long period of time when he was actually not here. He was actually not really. It was a very interesting situation. Bo Pelini, the former head coach, was very. I mean, he handled those matters in a very palatable fashion for those coaches. It was basically, hey, find a job. I'll keep you on until you find one. That's what. And you might see some of that here.
Yeah, isn't that called professional courtesy by a guy that doesn't want to put his, somebody he brought here to work for him on blast, so he lets them have some professional courtesy where they just kind of drift away, or somebody else comes and gets them a job, or you help them. Like you help them get a job, you help them get an interview at a school that maybe is closer to where they're familiar with.
Professional courtesy is a perfect way to put it. And some of that may be going on right now here.
Yeah, I think that's you two guys hit it right on the head. Sip, it's so interesting. I think we're kind of seeing this in real time, the now use of the portal, right, for leverage, where you have guys hopping into the portal and then hopping back on the team. How do you look at this? Do you think this was a leverage thing from Davis and Johnson, or do you think there was an actual want to hop in and then maybe they realized it wasn't as great as what they anticipated? And just in general, are you kind of a fan of players doing this, of kind of bluffing the portal and then, to get whatever concessions they may or may not have and then go back?
I'll answer the fan thing in a second.
Okay.
I don't think it was it's hard. These questions are hard because they're not always absolutes. Like, I don't know that I can say Emmett Johnson went into the portal as a leverage play. It could have been more than that. It probably was. I'm sure it was more than that, actually. It can become a leverage play.
Yeah.
Keona Davis, my read is it wasn't just a pure leverage play.
Agree.
And then there's the other discussion about what are you leveraging?
Sure.
It could be money. It also could be playing time. And the guys do that. But I don't know that it was that blatant. It is that blatant with some guy.
Sure.
I guess the best answer I could give you is it is blatant with some guys. I don't think it was blatant with those guys.
Okay.
Now, do I like it? I don't know what I like. I don't know. I guess no. I don't like just how the best way to put it is
you don't like current day college football the way the NIL and the portal.
No, unlimited free agency.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't. No, I don't want to do that. I'm okay.
It's okay though to say it, Sip. That this is.
It's not a hot take.
Yeah, this isn't great. This isn't fun to cover.
No, it's not.
Unlimited free agency is really troubling.
Yeah.
I never know what to say about who came up with this idea. You never. It's not an answer. You can't. I don't know how it sprung up. And who thought this was going to be a good idea?
Well, I don't think it was necessarily one person though. Like it kind of just happened, right? Like the courts made decisions and things became legal, and then all of a sudden the NCAA didn't have a grip on it. But the problem is, Sip, no one has grabbed it back. No one has put their hand back on the wheel yet in terms of the stuff.
Oh, and everybody plays the NCAA card. I get that. I don't think it was the NCAA's idea. They didn't get a handle on it. Then it got out of control in the courts.
Yeah.
And when you leave it to the courts, they don't understand what this stuff is. And so now we're just in a colossal mess, really.
Hey, Dana last week said we're going to be aggressive in the portal. Rule has kind of reiterated that. But Dana's was more, we might have 10 to 20 guys, and Rule was like, So when you think of, and there's some intriguing candidates that are actually setting up visits for Nebraska. I mean, I sat and watched Jack McAllister punt the football from Washington because he's going to visit. And I mean, you got to replace Buschini, and there's no guarantee with Cook. But Phoenix Jackson was supposed to visit yesterday, and he's a guy that would have fit well at linebacker for Nebraska. He's from Fresno State. But before he ever got to Lincoln, and he never got to Lincoln, NIL got involved, and he committed to Auburn. How aggressive do you think Nebraska will be in selling playing time spots, or will they be more aggressive with NIL? How do you think their approach will be as they try and fill some depth and some holes on the roster?
Well, I think they'll have to be aggressive. They will be aggressive. As far as which you sell, I don't think you have to make a distinction. I think you sell the whole package. It's a really, again, it kind of flows. These conversations flow into one another. The sort of the anarchy conversation that we just covered flows into this one pretty well, because what you see is some guys announce they're going to a school, they'll announce it on Twitter, and that's news to the sitting head coach. This guy's busy. I didn't even know this guy's visiting us. It's really wild, and it's kind of ridiculous in a way to cover it. Some of it's pretty real. Some of it's incredibly phony. So I don't know how to answer your question, except Nebraska better get some guys. They need some guys. I'd say, you guys talk about it all the time. Everybody knows the needs. I'd say you better get a couple receivers. You're always looking for big guys on both sides. On the offensive line, I got to think minimum of 2, and I think tackles should be an emphasis. Doesn't have to be, but it would be good. You really got hit at linebacker. So that the player from Fresno made sense to me, but although he wasn't, if you watched him at all, you would not say, "Oh my God, you can't live without that guy." Now, I will say this: really good linebackers aren't that easy to find. So when you lose John Bullock and Javin Wright and Mekhi Bayer, you got hit. You better find somebody. Shavers will stay. I know there was some stuff that cropped up about Vincent Shavers, but those Florida guys are pretty much locked in. McGahee, Barney, Sanders, they're locked in from what I can tell and what I've heard. But yeah, they got to, Nebraska, come on, everybody has to be aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much everybody has to be aggressive. So Nebraska will be aggressive.
Yeah. Sip, as always, we appreciate it. When are you and the boys headed to New York City?
We are leaving on Christmas Day late out of Lincoln. So we have a 5, a dinner time flight out of Lincoln.
Yeah. All right. You looking forward to it? You ever been to New York City?
Yeah, I was there for when Eric Kraut won the hot.
Oh.
So that was 2001, right?
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I'm looking forward to the trip.
You got a margarita spot over there?
Hell no, I'm not. I mean, all I really care about is like a good, nice, warm, deep dish pizza. That's
A
really
deep dish pizza? You're not getting deep dish out there, Sip. You're getting New York thin crust slice.
Is that what you get? Don't they have good deep
No,
dish,
deep
though?
dish is Chicago. You're going to New York.
Well, I know it's Chicago, but I thought
No,
you could do that in New York.
no, pal. You got it. You're getting a thin triangle cut, extra crispy. Go to Joe's or John's. Anything with a J, just eat pizza there.
Okay, anything with a J, and I do like thin crust, so I'm good there.
Anything with a J, you're in the right spot.
God bless you, Matt.
Hey,
thank you.
Thank you, Sip.
All right, take care, guys.
I was going to tell him Sbarro is a really good local spot that you should hit up when you're in New York.
Michael Scott's. Oh, Jimmy, dang it. I thought I got it before you. Dang it.
Make sure you hit that Olive Garden in Times Square.
I wanted, when I was announced that I was going to be your next co-host, I wanted the headline to be like, paper company does right by local business because they know how to do it right. Like, I wanted it to be like a Michael Scott. No, that joke kind of fell flat.
You
there.
could have
Let's just go.
You should have written your own press
Is
release.
this the Gen Z comedy you keep pushing on
No,
me?
This is just the crappy comedy I have.
You know, you're hit or miss. Not every joke lands.
I'm a 450 hitter. I'd be in the Hall of Fame.
450.
330.
Talking
every look from you, the average goes down.
Are we talking OBP? OPS?
I'm a Billy Bean guy. I'd be great on a Billy Bean.
Would you have drafted Billy Bean? Yes or no?
No. I imagine you would have went to Stanford and I forgot the rest of the quote.
It happens. Last hour's upcoming. It'll include a trip from Brian Edwards on 1620 The Zone. Hey, after watching the Houston Golden State game last night in the NBA Cup quarterfinals, my eyes have finally took me about 12 hours to refocus. Did you see the floor in Houston last night? Or any of these floors?
The floors are terrible.
The floor in Houston was even worse.
Worse than the 95-96 Rockets with that big rocket ship in the middle?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
Hey, Houston's kind of fun to watch. They beat Golden State last night. Steve Kerr's going to get hammered with a fine. He went off on the officials. He maybe should go off on Steph Curry, who took a bad shot at the end of the game.
In the NBA, you are going to see a massive flip in the next couple of years because there have been a lot of these same teams who have been good for a long time, right? A lot of the same teams who have been competing in the top of the East and the top of the West. And now you're seeing these teams who have been bad for a really long time. They're young guys because they've had so many shots at the barrel at this point with drafting high picks. They've hit enough where they're starting to come around. You're seeing, San Antonio is slightly getting better. Houston's getting better.
We're so bad.
Oklahoma City is emerging. Like these
best
teams,
team in the NBA.
Like they are the Mavericks. Mavericks are a weird team because they were relevant because Luka was there, and then they added Kyrie. But they definitely weren't. They were on the outside looking in for a while after they won the title in 2011. So with Golden State getting older, Stephen Curry's in his mid-30s now. Kevin Durant's in his mid-30s now. LeBron's almost 40. Things are changing.
Yeah. Well, F them all. My team's back.
The semifinals in the NBA Cup are I think you'd call them smaller markets in the NBA world. Atlanta and Milwaukee. And then you have Oklahoma City and Houston. That's the Final Four of the NBA Cup with the god-awful floors. But I was like the Seinfeld episode where Kenny Rogers Chicken, where Kramer is inside of Jerry's apartment and he opens Jerry's door, and I was like, God, watching that game last night. It was distracting.
I like Seinfeld. Okay, I know it's before my time.
No,
you're an old soul. This is good.
That's the best thing you've said all morning.
Love Seinfeld. I have watched a lot of episodes of Friends. I know you're not. You're probably not a Friends guy, are you? That wasn't really.
You know what? I started strong with Friends and then kind of tailed off.
My mother loved Friends, so the two shows that I've watched the most growing up were Friends and, you're gonna laugh, Happy Days.
Well, it's a great
Nothing
show.
wong with that.
Watched a ton.
Oh, you told me that. Like your dad. That was your dad's favorite show.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Sat in his favorite recliner and watched the Fonz. Potsy.
Love Potsy.
Yeah, my show right now.
Oh, what's your show?
Well, because this is the one that I'm aggressively watching is Suits. So I'm going back and watching Suits.
Here's the thing.
Not Kevin.
My parents and I watched Suits when it was on network television, when it was coming out.
Oh, okay.
In 2011 or 12 or whenever that.
I think it was 2011 when it first debuted.
They would turn on whatever channel it was, and we would just watch Suits. And so now that this resurgence has happened, I think I'm the cool guy because I'm like, oh, I knew about Suits before it became popular.
Hey,
you know
I knew who Meghan Markle was before
gorgeous.
She became part of the royals.
Yeah,
And
my
not
mom
those
has
royals.
a weird love-hate relationship with Meghan Markle. Because she loved.
Tell me more.
She loved Meghan Markle because she loved Suits.
Yeah.
And she thought that and then she started dating the Prince, Harry.
Yeah.
And my mother loves the royal family.
Okay.
So much so that when Kate and William got married,
She was one of those.
she woke me up
to watch the wedding.
Yeah. I woke up at 4:00 in the morning and she was like, she woke all of us up and we had to watch it because she was like, this is a historical moment in time. And she loved Meghan because of Suits. But now she is one of these people who feel like, oh my God, she pulled Harry away from the family, and
he pulled her away from the last year of Suits.
Yeah. And there's a lot of this because that royal family's weird, but also too they've caused a lot. They're not innocent. They haven't they've caused their own problems within that whole debacle as well. It's a real conflicting thing going on between my mother and Meghan Markle. I think it keeps her up at night, whether or not she really likes it.
This could be a good podcast.
Suits is coming back this spring on NBC.
No,
and
it's
LA.
not.
It's LA. I don't know if Harvey Specter and Mike Ross are going to be on.
No,
because at the tail end, Mike and Meghan were in Seattle.
Yes.
I hope I'm not ruining this for anybody that hasn't watched Suits.
No, it ended. It ended.
9 years.
I mean, the whole premise, like it kind of happened with. Do you ever see a Lone Survivor?
No.
Or not Lone Survivor. Designated Survivor. Sorry.
Jeff Van Gundy told me to.
That would also
binge
be a
that,
no.
and we started, and
so Designated Survivor was great, but the premise only lasted one season long, and then the premise was done, and then after that, it just became a boring like Congress show that like why am I still watching this? Right? Like after 6 seasons of Suits, like the premise is kind of gone. Like they found out about Mike, and like, but now he's a lawyer, and like there's all this drama, like it's done. The story's over. Like what else are you going to do? The whole premise.
But you got Harvey Specter, and you got Louis Litt.
You just
not
got
to be
lit
confused with Louis Lips.
Hey,
but like
great receiver.
I am re-addicted to that show. I cannot get through it soon
But
enough.
I don't want to reboot. Would you want to reboot?
No, unless Harvey made the move from New York to L.A.
That's the problem.
But they haven't been on the air. 19 was the last year I think Suits was on. Like that was the last season.
I mean, isn't that like the beauty of like there are some shows like the beauty of Seinfeld was it probably ended up like they probably could have kept going with Seinfeld. They probably could have kept going with the Chappelle Show. Like the Chappelle Show, and I know there's a whole other bunch of, drama that occurred with that. But like some of the best shows that we recall on, like ended really quickly. And that's good. Breaking Bad could have had way more seasons than what they did. And they could have stretched that thing out forever. Like The Walking Dead was white hot when I was young. And then by the time it was over, it was like, oh, this is still going on. Like the beauty, some shows are meant to.
Then there are some shows like Yellowstone, which has the last episode coming up Sunday night. Not so fast, because there's going to be a spinoff with Beth and Rip.
Ooh.
I have been
Joey
loyal
and
to
Chachi.
Yellowstone. Probably has jumped the shark a bit. I have remained loyal to Yellowstone, and I will be there on Sunday night when they. But that show, when they lost the battle between Kevin Costner's character and Rainwater, those were the best parts. And then of course Costner hasn't been on, and all of a sudden Sheridan has inserted himself into his shows. So Lioness, he's inserted himself into Yellowstone. Like this last episode was like, you have such a friggin' ego.
Yeah,
his girlfriend is in the episode. It was.
I haven't watched Yellowstone. I have not
like
watched
the whole
it.
show.
I haven't watched one episode.
Okay,
I haven't watched
the
one
first
bit.
couple years. When John Dutton and Rainwater were butting heads, that was probably some of the best.
Mm-hmm.
But then they start all these other spin-offs, and Landman is the one that now you need to get caught up on.
Did you know
Billy Bob Thornton? Billy Bob Thornton, top 10 current actor.
Billy Bob Thornton's awesome.
I mean, watch Bad Santa.
Yeah.
And then watch Landman. I know if
Friday
you
Night
work,
Lights, he's great.
If you are in that industry, it's television, so you have to understand, because there's a lot of people like, you know what? That doesn't happen in the patch. But it's a great show. Billy Bob Thornton, as quirky as he is,
he's a weird guy.
Well, I mean, when he was him and Angelina Jolie were married, they had vials of their blood around their neck in like a little necklace.
Yeah.
Like that's what we'll do as we get older in our relationship here on the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Like we'll cut our hand and we'll shake.
Whoa.
You want to do it right now?
No, not really.
No.
But Billy Bob Thornton, top 10 current actor.
Have you seen Reacher?
Yes.
Okay. You loved it,
by the way, yes.
Season 3's coming out.
I know.
I'm excited. I love Alan Rickson. That guy, he was in those Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies with all the like CGI and stuff like that. Like he was,
I have met him before.
Really?
He is a gigantic.
I was going to ask.
He looks huge on TV. He's even bigger in person. Like his chest is enormous.
You know, he's one of those guys. I like him because he's on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. And like, I like that he's honest about it, because you have some people who clearly are on stuff, The Rock, and they won't admit it.
Barry Bonds.
Like, they won't admit that they're on it. And I appreciate the fact that he's like, no, like I'm adding some testosterone to this, whatever. Dude's gigantic. He's jacked. He's incredible.
A couple of emails here to the Equitable Bank inbox. John says your mom sounds like she's a little bit psycho.
Whoa.
That's rude.
And single. Is she single?
No.
Oh. Sorry, John. I may have added the last part on that one.
Not a psycho.
I mean, you could say, I think you probably have a good relationship with your mom.
Yeah, we're very close.
Sean says Tulsa King. Yes. So the second
Oh, my dad loves Tulsa
so
King.
the second season of Tulsa King was really, really good. I thought it was the way that season 1 ended.
And you still recommend it to me,
Yeah,
right?
I thought, yes. No, season 2 rallied because I was like, oh, is this going to go down the path of, we had a good storyline going. All of a sudden, Vincent is arrested at the end of season 1. But season 2 had some good drama. Fremont Fred, that Markle.
Yes.
Biatch is a
Wow, why is this
Kardashian
such like
wannabe.
why is this okay? First off,
Yeah.
Let's make this very clear. She's not a Kardashian wannabe. She's a very accomplished actor. I'm pretty sure her father was in the business before she was. Okay?
Kim was great in her film with Ray J.
She did. That's a good joke.
It was. She was great.
She is an actual.
She could have been better.
She is.
It was her early work.
She was Meghan Markle was an actual actor.
Who'd you like? Her or Paris Hilton when you were on the internet as a youngster in your bedroom in Skokie, Illinois?
Gotta go Kim.
Kim.
Yeah. Hashtag peach emoji.
Yeah, it was Kim.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good man.
Yeah. No,
Just
I mean,
for
Meghan
reference
Markle's
sake.
nothing like Kim Kardashian because she's an actual accomplished actor, and Kardashian has done some stuff now in the last decade, but her original rise to fame was famous for being famous.
Cheddar's Cheetah says, Billy Bob fan here. If you haven't, you need to watch Goliath. First season is phenomenal. Let me know what you thought of season 2 and 3. I got a lot of things to watch.
I know. I just
Chad,
yeah,
so-
my dad knew it would get along great. He watches all that. Have you seen?
Your dad is retired. Your dad sits in a recliner all day.
That's not true. My dad's a hard worker.
I got to watch my live sports. I got to do other things. I can only do one show at a time, and right now it's Suits.
That's
I'm going
fine.
back and watching it. Oh, I've got so much stuff that I need to catch up on. And
I have to
on the
watch
old,
Lost.
TV.
How's Lost?
Fine movie.
Yeah.
Or show.
You want
excuse me.
me to tell you how it ends?
Go ahead. They get found?
No, they land at LaGuardia. Go about their merry way.
They get found?
I can't tell you because now I think you're
I got to do Sopranos.
Yes.
And The Wire.
Yes.
Wire is one of the most underrated, excellent written shows
Great for the
of
whole
all time.
family.
And what's better, The Wire or Sopranos? Or is that a whole
I'm not going to
segment?
choose. I think you can't go wrong with either one.
It's a 7-game series.
Now, The Wire is like Mafia too, right? Like, is that or is it a little
Not to the extent of Sopranos.
Sopranos?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little bit different. But
Okay.
The Wire, I think The Wire, in terms of the way it is written and the acting, is unbelievable. And it's maybe one of those shows that got more credit when it was done.
Right.
There's a lot
As
like
unfortunately
hindsight.
some of the big names off of it have passed away. Then people go back, oh man, The Wire was, it was popular when it was on, but The Wire has aged well.
I think what's going on though with this whole there's a lot of shows that are coming back and becoming popular is that TV in general is just falling off. Like there are just less and less
primetime TV, yeah.
There's less and less good television shows, so more people are hearkening back to like when it used to be the golden era of television. Yeah.
Corey writes in, Yellowstone, or mainly Taylor Sheridan, has gotten so overwritten at this point. He needs 2 more seasons to wrap up all these loose ends. It's going to end on a bad note full of way too many rushed conclusions. I agree.
Yeah, I know a lot of people. I haven't watched it. I know a lot of people. My dad's into it.
Him and Kevin Costner couldn't get together, so once Costner
Is
was
Costner off the show now?
Yeah,
Yes.
he has. When
He walked into the cornfield.
They killed him.
He was the main guy.
Huh? I know he was the main guy, but they couldn't come to an agreement about the shooting schedule, and they did him dirty. They had Governor John Dutton commit suicide. Because he was so petty, he wrote him out that way.
Wait, isn't he? Okay, so I haven't watched the whole show, but I know enough to be like, I've seen clips on YouTube and whatnot. I know that doesn't qualify me as an expert, but isn't John Dutton supposed to be like this super tough,
Yes.
ranching character?
Yes,
who,
and then he became governor.
Yeah.
And he never came back to shoot this final season, the last part of season 5, because he got into him and Taylor Sheridan couldn't come to an agreement because Costner is doing all these other projects.
Yeah.
And Costner is Yellowstone, but Taylor Sheridan had him commit suicide. Like his character
that doesn't make
committed
sense.
suicide.
Yeah, that's so petty.
Yes, that's what this
That's ridiculous.
That's what this storyline has become. But I agree with Corey. There are like 4 or 5 stories that are going on right now that they're going to try and wrap up in the last one. That's why Beth and Rip are going to do a spinoff. Like there's a lot of
sketch
like
comedy.
Taylor Sheridan is very talented. I mean, almost everything he touches turns to gold.
Sure.
And they have spinoffs, but he inserted himself into Yellowstone. And
did you see that Costner West movie Frontier? Is that what it was?
I did not see it. But
Yeah,
that was his passion project.
I was excited for it, and then apparently it didn't get great reviews, and it's a long movie.
We should talk about Waterworld next.
How do you feel? I'm such a screenager. I'm gonna get so much hate for saying this, but I already get a lot of hate for saying things. Any movie over 2 hours and 15 minutes, it's got to be one hell of a film. You know what I'm saying? Like it's got to be a really good film for me to commit to being over 2 hours and 15 minutes. Once we get to 2.5, like it's just drags. Almost every movie drags after 2:15. I think the perfect movie's 2 hours.
Okay. So John Dutton, they had it set up as he committed suicide, but he was actually murdered, and it was a hire for murder that involved his son Jamie. Yes, I know that. But originally, they killed him off with suicide. And then later on...
you found out.
Then you found... Well, you knew that this was a hit job.
Yeah.
But they presented it as suicide, which I think is disrespectful to Kevin Costner. That's the way you're going to go?
Yeah. Is Tony Soprano dead?
In real life?
Oh, yeah. James Gandolfini, rest in peace.
Yeah.
But like in the show, he died. Like at
Who
the
knows?
end. No, at the end.
You
See,
gotta watch.
what's your opinion?
Who knows?
Your take? No, what's your take? I need your take here. Yeah.
Justin says Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix.
My
Good
dad
time.
just
That's a
finished
good one.
that. Yeah.
I've heard good things about that.
Me too. That's a good actor too. I don't know his name.
John says
he's really good.
They keep promoting Sunday night's Yellowstone as the season finale, not the series finale. That's true. So yesterday it came out that they are doing a spinoff
of Yellowstone.
Yes.
Of Rip and Beth.
So Rip and Beth are going to move to Texas.
Get a townhome in Dallas and buy the Cowboys.
Because on the last episode, she was flying down to see Taylor Sheridan and was looking at ranches in Texas.
I'm trying to think of. Have you seen the Netflix the Mr. McMahon documentary?
Yes.
I know that's Were you a WWE fan back in the day?
Huge.
Me too.
Still a wrestling fan today.
Me too.
There we go.
We haven't talked
handshake
about this.
meme.
All
Wow.
right. We can agree on that. We both can agree that
I was before I took this job.
You were going to go to the WWE and start wrestling?
I was going to go to the Royal Rumble in Indianapolis.
And try and catch on or go as a fan?
Yeah, no, I was going to be entrant number 31. 3, 2, and it comes. Who the hell's this guy?
See, I'm glad we agree on a couple things, and we can agree on when you have a chance to grab that 76th team for the NCAA tournament. You've got to do it.
Oh my!
Well done.
If the NCAA is great at anything, it's ruining things that don't need to be ruined.
Boy, that's going to benefit those Wait a minute, no. It'll benefit the majors. This is such a ridiculous idea.
It's such
that
a
they're talking
stupid
about
idea.
expanding the tournament 72 to 76.
Another thing too,
64 plus 4 is ideal. Leave it. Don't touch it. I know it's about money. Life doesn't always have to be about money, young man.
Is the 74th team going to win the NCAA tournament? Is the 74th team going to win the NCAA tournament?
Stranger things have happened. 1985, well before you were born, there was a team called Villanova. Mm-hmm. They beat Georgetown.
Okay. Listen.
Gordon Hayward could have changed all of basketball if he would have hit a half-court shot, and Butler would have pulled a major upset.
It's hard enough for the 68th team to make a run. It's hard enough for that to accomplish, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen teams, UCLA a couple of years ago, they were the 11th seed. They win the play-in game. They end up making one hell of a run, right? Like, it's hard enough for those things to happen. To add 6 more teams to that, it makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Or what? You're going 68 to 74.
I know the big boys don't get us mid-majors because I broadcast games for a mid-major. The winning and getting a unit, which is money, for winning and advancing to the next round is humongous.
I guarantee
for low to mid-major programs. But if you're expanding, you're not saying, hey, we might get 2 teams in from the Summit. No, you're like, let's see, could we get 13 teams in from the Big Ten? Speaking of that, great weekend of college basketball. Huge game tomorrow night for Nebraska against Indiana. We'll talk about it tomorrow. And also, Creighton traveling to Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama. We'll do all that tomorrow. We'll get through some emails and some tweets when we come back. And we haven't even shared thoughts on the 25 schedule. Will the win total for Nebraska from Vegas, looking at the schedule, and with not knowing the totality of the roster, be 7.5 again? 7.5 on December 12th for 2025. Yay or nay? Over, under? Think about it. We'll get to it when we come back on Gary and Matt in 1620 The Zone. Man, I like the Rich Rodriguez hire at West Virginia. Coming home.
He wins.
It's a fun place.
Big 12's got some interesting characters as head coaches.
Do.
Matt Campbell just got an 8-year extension. You're not going anywhere.
They're going to build the statue for him, right?
I think so. Him and TJ Otzelberger will be holding up national titles.
Made of Busch-like cans.
Man, I'm just kidding there. So quickly here on Nebraska's 25 schedule, I said looking at it, and it's actually, I think it's a schedule which allows you to keep your head above water.
Yeah.
To get off to a quick start.
I think that's a good way of putting it.
The bottom line is Nebraska's been 1-7 in the last 2 years in the month of November, and November's a little bit quirky. Starts with a home game against USC, a trip to UCLA, a bye, trip to Penn State. So you begin November with a home game against USC. You finish it on Black Friday against Iowa. Quirky November, but it'll be November to remember. If you're 1-7, you go USC, UCLA, at Penn State, which might be a whiteout.
It could be.
Short week, long travel. If you're Nebraska, you don't want it to be a whiteout because that means that game will start like at 7:30 local. You're not going to get back to Lincoln until like 5, 6 in the morning.
And you've done that one before.
And then you got to go and play.
And then you got Iowa on Friday. Fortunately, it's not on the road.
That's a great way of looking at it.
But November is kind of games 6 through 9 are going to decide Nebraska's next season. And another quirk, 6th straight time that Penn State and Nebraska played in November.
Oh, that's a good one.
2 bye weeks, one falls after Michigan, one falls before Penn State. This is one of the better schedules that I think Nebraska has gotten.
I agree.
But the win total, which will fluctuate with the roster, 7.5. I think that'll be set. Not if you're going over and under, because I don't think that's fair, because we don't know who's going to be where.
Let's see.
But do you think that'll be the number that'll be set by Vegas again?
They'll be probably favored against Cincinnati, but it could be a pretty close line. They'll be favored against Akron. They'll be favored against Houston Christian. Depending on what Michigan does up to week 4, they might be home underdogs, but I think that would, depending on what Michigan does and how Bryce Underwood looks at it, the line is TBD. As of right now, I'm confident that they'll be favorites against Michigan State and Maryland. They'll be underdogs, so that's 2 underdogs against Minnesota. They'll be favorites against Northwestern. Last 4 games of the year, at that point, it's going to depend on what they're playing. I think 7.5 is a fair line. I think it's fair.
No Wisconsin, no Oregon, no Ohio State.
Yeah.
Only 4 true road games on the schedule.
And one of them's going to be a home game.
I will say this. I want to get do you think it's a disadvantage that they're going to end the year, UCLA, Penn State, Iowa. They're at a West Coast team, and then a week later they're at an East Coast team.
But they have that bye week.
Do they have? Oh, they do have a bye week in between.
So that
November
helps.
8th. Yeah, never mind then. That's good. Yeah, no, that Penn State game is going to be a whiteout, I think. It's going to be their last game. It's going to be Penn State's last home game of the year because they end the season at Rutgers.
It's a good schedule. They open with 2 home conference games.
Yeah. And then,
I guess
if we're going to be honest here, too.
Did they give Nebraska a good schedule because Dannon did a solid and had a Friday night home game?
You see that. Yeah.
Probably.
There you go.
Another thing, too, is what you have to look at is Cincinnati, right? That's a quote-unquote neutral site game.
Arrowhead.
But if that gets moved to Arrowhead, that ain't a neutral site game.
Nope.
That's a home game. And
I would prefer that to be on a Saturday instead of a Thursday, just FYI.
You know, my buddies wanted, like, we were like, hey, this is going to be our big boy trip. Like, you know, we all going to have jobs or whatever. Like, this is the first time we'll get hotels. Like, we'll go all out for it. And then it's on a Thursday. Or might be on a Thursday.
Might be on a Thursday.
But, no, it is. I mean, you could make an argument that once they hit at Minnesota, that realistically they could be 5-1. You know, but we played this song. We did this song and dance with Ohio State, right? About them being 7-0.
We get to do this all the time. Here's the only thing. Like, I would like the Cincinnati game, and there's some stuff to work through. And television will come into play because Fox has the rights to this game. The 28th is open. The Royals are not home. The Royals then, on the 29th, 30th, and 31st, have a series against the Tigers. So on the 30th, they're scheduled to play at 6:15. They're not doing a doubleheader.
Oh, okay.
So that's why that Thursday night is so appealing, because there's no conflict with the Royals.
Is Kaufman and they're next? Are they close to each other?
Right across the parking lot.
Yeah. Do they share? I'm assuming do they share parking lots?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a fun time.
That makes sense.
You and the guys would have a great time.
I've never been. Is Kaufman knocked down yet, or they're getting there, right?
No.
I thought they were trying to build a new stadium.
They are in discussions, but it hasn't even.
I want to go to Kaufman before they.
No, you
have some time.
You got some time.
I know I got time.
Things move a little bit slow.
You
in
may
old
be
Kansas
taking your
City.
kids there.
I think that. I think
30. You set the over at 30. Will be done.
I think so.
Okay.
Okay. So is there? I'm looking at this YouTube chat. Good question coming in from Corey and Strigori here about the amount of wins. Like, what's acceptable? Like with this schedule, what's an acceptable amount of wins?
I'm going to tap out on this conversation
Okay.
because it's December 12th. I know you wanted to do win-loss.
As a joke, I wanted to do
No,
win-loss.
you said I want to. I want to make my prediction right now.
Win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win.
7-5.
I don't know where that puts us.
7-5.
You're supposed to, when you do that game, you're supposed to keep track in your head.
Jim, that's why we got Jimmy. Jimmy did a
I
great
think you
job
just
there.
did like 14 games there. So you got Nebraska playing in the Big Ten championship game and hosting a playoff game?
I think with the 17 game prediction I did there, I think the Nebraska's going to get a first round bye in the NFC playoffs.
There, I'll adopt that team.
I just said, what do you think the win total will be? I'm not
7.5.
I'm not going to play the.
It's
I'm not going to
7.5.
play the win-loss game.
It's going debate. It's 7.5. What would it have to be for? What would they have to do for it to be 8.5, and what would they have to do for it to be 6.5? You know what I'm saying?
I would say probably T.O. comes back.
Yeah,
calling plays.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like there's nothing that's going to happen in this transfer portal cycle that's going to make Vegas think that they're going to win 9 games.
There is not a WAR +1 win in the portal.
No Juan Soto
and
here.
there's not. And the only way that you could go from 7.5 to 6.5 is if Raiola were to leave, and he's not going to. At least that's what he says. So 7.5.
Yeah. I think you're going to have your quarterback for 2025.
Done.
Surprisingly, Nebraska has not really attached any quarterbacks in the portal.
They need a backup. With Kalen gone, they need another guy there. You want him to compete. You want a guy to push Raiola. I get it. I totally understand the sentiment.
You might want Harburg to be a full-time tight end. So there you go.
That's what I want. Yeah, he's a hell of an athlete. I would prefer them to get a quarterback in order for them to use one of their best athletes on the field in an offense that needs an abundance of athletes. I don't think that's a hot take at all.
No.
I think Heinrich is great. I've liked Heinrich since he came in, Carney. I'm the one who asked Mickey Joseph about is Heinrich you going to play Heinrich?
That's your claim to fame.
That's
so
not
I don't know
my
if people
claim to
knew that.
fame.
Yeah.
So
Because
he's
laughed.
the one responsible.
Yeah.
Okay.
He laughed at the question.
Was that a big segment on your show when he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Dude,
yeah.
A sitting head football coach at Nebraska destroyed a player at a press conference with a laugh.
There was multiple segments and days.
Was it with a laugh?
Really?
With a laugh. And then we're like,
You
well,
did
what's
that.
going on with Harburg? And then we find out that he wasn't even allowed in the position group room.
See, you were
Yeah.
here before
Wow,
you
I
were here.
caused a lot
It was
of
meant to be.
problems as a little.
Yeah.
That's Caleb Henry's fault because Caleb told me to ask that question. So there you go.
Fault. You did a good thing.
A couple of things here on things we've talked about here in the last hour. This is back to Yellowstone. Chris says you're 100% right. Disrespectful to write off the way that Sheridan wrote Kevin Costner off.
I've never. Look, once again, have not watched the show, so I cannot speak to as much expertise as you can.
You're going to like it. You will.
Uggs 7-5 would be a literal improvement and also super disappointing. Such a conundrum. Anything less than 9 wins will be disappointing. This is great. Nebraska didn't even play their bowl game yet for 2024, and we're deep into 2025. Yet anything above 6 wins is an improvement in the best season in almost a decade. What a weird, horrible place to be.
Do you think that's a good way of going about it? You go 5-7 to 6-6 to 7-5 to 8-4 to 9-3 to 10-2.
I don't know.
It's called improvement.
What then? That's not the rule model for year 3 to be the pop. 5-7, 6-6.
So that's okay. So here's a great combo. Yeah, you hate.
How
where
about
this is
starting
going.
the year 1-0?
If he wins, if they go 8-4, but it's not the rule year 3 pop, is it a disappointment, Gary?
Yes.
Okay. So anything under 9 wins is a disappointment because it didn't get the year 3 bump.
I think anything under 8 wins
is a disappointment.
Yeah.
8 wins itself is a disappointment.
Baby steps here.
Okay.
Baby steps.
They should get
5 to 6.
Can I be honest with you? There's no excuse. There is zero excuse not to get.
There's zero excuse not to start playing consistent football.
And if
there are excuses that you can't play consistent football, you know what? Find other people that can come in here and be excuses and clean the friggin' house.
If they play consistent football,
it's
they
go
will
time.
Win 8
Year
games.
3 is go time.
They'll win it. There's no excuse not to win 8 games or more.
Yeah.
They have, like I said, they'll be favorites in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 7 games.
Oh God, I hate this. Why'd they even bring this up? Why'd they release the Big Ten
You're the one
schedule?
driving the show.
No, why'd they bring this? Big Ten?
You're the one who said we got
the Big Ten sucks. You know what? You know what else sucks about the Big Ten?
What sucks about the Big Ten
is that the Big Ten is so out of touch with Nebraska that they used an old Herbie graphic yesterday. First of all, Herbie Husker should be dropped off the back of the stadium, never to be seen again. The current version. The version that was replaced, meh. But that's the version that the Big Ten used yesterday, sending out a graphic.
I did not I remember it was a big deal when they went from the Herbie that I started with when I went to UNL and went to a different Herbie or whatever. Doesn't really change. Do you believe in the curse of Lil Red? We haven't done anything since that guy came in, right?
I love Lil Red. I think Lil Red's better than Herbie.
Wow. I love him. I think he's funny. I don't know who's in that costume, but the way they flail.
Mm-hmm.
It's inflatable. He jumps around.
Fun.
But the current the thing that parades around, that thing should get trucked. Like
what?
It should get run over.
The current
yes.
Herbie?
Yeah.
Why?
Like I hope every time that he comes out on the field and they shoot T-shirts in, they turn the corner too fast and it falls over and Herbie is flattened and never to be seen again.
Why?
Because the thing looks awful.
I don't think it's... Why do you care that much?
Because that's my school.
Fair enough.
And people think all Nebraskans look like that. I'm telling you, I don't look like that.
Oh, yeah.
Who'd have thought this would be the biggest debate of the first week?
Yeah. That's not a big debate. I just don't think it matters.
It does. In the grand scheme of things.
I don't think it matters.
When you're trying to be a brand.
So,
that's a hot topic.
I mean, does all I care about is wins. Does
what God, color that's hair, such a cop out.
Does what color
that
hair?
That is such a friggin' cop out.
Does what color hair Herbie Husker have really contribute to wins? That's all I care about.
Did they win more when he had dark hair or blonde hair? Look it up. Look it up.
I didn't. Probably blonde hair, right?
Look it up.
That's not something you can Google.
Oh, you can Google.
Can you just tell me?
Nope. Brian Edwards going to join us next. 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in. Our Thursday friend. Good way to wrap it up. Get you ready for the weekend. Don't forget, we have the Rams and the Niners tonight, as the Niners are a 3-point favorite. Must win for both teams. It is the senior handicapper from VegasInsider.com, Brian Edwards. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are we?
Good. How are you? How are things in your world?
Things are good. Coming off a good week and slowly dipping my toes into hoops. Feel like I got a lot of catching up to do. Don't really feel like I've watched a lot of teams as much as I would have liked to. Wish they would push the college basketball season back at least a month. But other than that, all good, man. How are you?
Good. Hey, we talk about this yearly now. What's your and next week we'll talk about the playoff games. But how has your capping of bowl games that are not like playoff games has it decreased in the last few years because you don't know who's playing or the bottom line motivation?
Yeah, 5 years ago and beyond, I would want to get ahead of these games and, try to bet them before the lines move because we can get 7, sometimes 10-point line moves from opening until kickoff with bowl games. But at this point, I don't even really try to cap a bowl game, a CFP game until, I'm not even going to try to cap them until mid next week or late next week, just because, a lot of times we don't find out who's, what's the word they use these days? Not skip, but not forego, but
opt out.
Opt out. The dreaded opt out. Yes, thank you. We just don't know. Sometimes we don't know until 3 hours before kickoff. Usually we end up finding out, at least the most important players. But yeah, I'm not even trying to cap these bowl games yet.
All right, let's start in the NFL, and there's some really good games in the NFL. But let's go here. Chargers, Tampa Bay. Herbert injured his ankle against the Chiefs. Tampa Bay, Chargers are a 3-point favorite. Where are we going with the Chargers and the Bucs? Pretty important game, AFC, NFC for both teams in the playoff race.
Yeah, a big fan of the Chargers here. I put a good chunk on the Bucs to win the NFC South going into that Panthers game 2 weeks ago when the Falcons were playing the Chargers. I got them one account plus 240, another one, I think it was either 260 or 270. Not to imply this is the hedge of that by any means, because Chargers could win by 1 or 2 and I would get screwed in that regard. But yeah, I've got a lot on the Bucs to win the NFC South. Their schedule is pretty much cake after this game, but I think this game's a tough one. Now Tampa Bay's won 3 in a row, but the wins came over the Raiders, Giants, and Panthers, who have combined for a 7-32 straight up record this year. I know Herbert's banged up, but he plays banged up a lot, and I have no doubt he will be ready to go. And yeah, like the Chargers, I'm not going to say it's my favorite pick of the week, but I'm pretty strong on the Chargers -3 to the Bucs.
All righty, Brian, we got 2 of the best teams in the NFL. The Lions take on the Buffalo Bills. Lions are -2.5 in this one.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite one. Maybe not as favorite-ish now that it's moved to 2.5 at the last look. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I got it -125 money line on Tuesday morning, I think it was, when it was down to 1.5 at a lot of books. I think I've said this several times on this show and many others. Detroit -3 or fewer at home, I'm in. I don't care if they're playing the Chiefs, the Ravens, doesn't matter. And the Bills are, up there. I think I have the Bills. I might have dropped them to either 4th or 5th in my power rankings this week off the loss to the Rams. But it's a tough spot for Buffalo. You got to imagine, I don't know this for a fact, but you got to imagine they didn't get back to upstate New York until way past midnight.
Sure.
Late Sunday night or early Monday morning, and the Lions have been chilling since Thursday. So rest advantage there. Lions won 11 in a row, 8-3 ATS in that stretch, and a couple of those 3 non-covers should have been covers. Just didn't quite get there. I also like the Lions over 27.5. team total for the game, and give them to me in the first half as well.
If I'm the Commanders, I had a bye last week. I like where I'm at. And then I wake up on Monday and I'm like, whoa, no Derek Carr. So I'm going to face either Spencer Rattler or Jake Hayner. I got to face Kamara. I'll just stack the line. The line is 7.5. This looks like a healthy Sunday for the Commanders.
Yep. Better spot, rest advantage. Again, they had a get-right game against the Titans before the open date after losing 3 heartbreakers that I know at Philly and the Pittsburgh at home, they had the lead in the fourth quarter. I can't remember if they had the lead in the fourth quarter against the Cowgirls, but that was they just had a bad day that day. But yeah, love Commanders. I got 7. I got a clean 7, but by the half point from 7.5 to 7. I don't care if it's Hayner or Rattler. I think the Commanders roll.
All righty, Brian, we'll move from the NFL over to college football. The bid stealer, the ACC champion, the Clemson Tigers, will go on the road to take on the Texas Longhorns. Clemson plus 11.
Yeah, I got to go Clemson here. This is the only line on the 4 first-round matchups that I made that was, off by more than a half point, or I might have had one that was off by – no, actually, no. It's the only one that was off by more than a half point, and it was off a good bit. I had Texas 7.5.
Wow.
Texas only 2-4 ATS. Last 6 is a double-digit favorite. I think Clemson's relishing this underdog role. I feel like they feel fortunate to be here. Nothing to lose attitude. I like Clemson plus the 11.
I love that pick. Are you surprised that the sports books kind of basically say none of these games will be close if you're going off lines? I mean, I think Ohio State, Tennessee is the closest at 7.5.
So I made Ohio State 7. I made Penn State 8.5. I made Notre Dame 8.5. So I'm not really surprised by any of the lines other than Texas a little bit. And especially with SMU, you got to take into account weather. I mean, I'm not playing meteorologist 9-10 days out, but good grief, it's going to have to be you would think it's going to be in the 20s at the Shoe and in Happy Valley and in South Bend. Not that it matters to Indiana because they're cold weather as well, but I'm okay with all the lines except for Texas, and weather will be a factor for sure.
All right, one place it wouldn't be a factor. Let's do some hypothetical here to get you out. Notre Dame beats Indiana in a night game in South Bend. Then we get Notre Dame, Georgia. There's a lot of people that think Notre Dame could win a national title, but Notre Dame, Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. The hypothetical line, also considering we don't know for sure about Carson Beck, would be what according to FanDuel?
Yeah, so FanDuel has Notre Dame minus 1.5, and if I had a FanDuel account, I would be all over Georgia right this second, and I don't care if Carson Beck's out. I would love them with or without Carson Beck. In fact, if Carson Beck's only 80%, I'd rather have 100% Gunnar Stockton. Yeah, Georgia plus 1.5 to Notre Dame in New Orleans is my favorite of the hypotheticals. I would probably like Oregon minus 4.5 to Tennessee as well. And I would like Arizona State plus 13.5 to Texas. And yeah, those are probably the ones I would like, but mainly the Georgia plus 1.5 to Notre Dame in New Orleans. I think that's a gift from the heavens.
Wow. All right. Hey, have a great weekend. Continued success. Next week, we're going to be all into the playoffs. We'll chat about that and much more. Thanks again, B.
Thanks, all. You have a great weekend.
Thanks, Brian.
Arizona State as a major, nearly 2-touchdown underdog against Texas in the Peach Bowl.
I'm going to tell you right now, I watched that Arizona State-Iowa State Big 12 championship game.
You're a believer now.
They looked incredible.
Yeah.
They did look good.
So good. And that's not like a backdoor Iowa State into the Big 12 championship game. That was an Iowa State team that had beaten some good teams this year and had competed and had played good football to get to that point. So, I mean, is Arizona State, is that my pick to win it all? No, but I'm just really impressed with the football they're playing coming into this one.
I'm not sold on Texas. I think Texas is good, not great.
Yeah.
Do you think?
But there may not be.
Is there
a great team this year? Like Oregon is really good. I don't know. I call them great.
I would call
my definition of great is different. Very good. Very good.
You have a high definition of great. I don't.
When Georgia is on, I think Georgia's great.
You did see the 95 Huskers with your own eyes, so.
That is the thing. No, you have a different.
I mean, so did I.
Yeah.
You have a different definition of great.
Yes.
I think a team that went 13-0 and was really only challenged twice all year, playing in the Big Ten. And also, by the way, the second time it was actually the first one. Okay, so let me rephrase this. They were challenged when they played Ohio State at home.
Mm-hmm.
They were challenged when they played Boise State, a non-con game. I think were they home or away for that?
They were home.
They were home for that one. They were challenged there. Other than that, playing a Big Ten schedule, not challenged whatsoever. I mean, they against Wisconsin. At Wisconsin, they were challenged, but they end up winning that game. That was their ultimate trap game. And when you're into a trap game and you walk out of it, that's a good thing. But I agree. Is it on the level of like 2019 LSU or 1995 Nebraska or like those all-time great teams? No. But when you go 13-0 and you play two college football playoff teams in that schedule, and you three, and they beat all of them.
We deserve Oregon, Georgia. But could we get Oregon, Notre Dame? I'm going to convince you on Notre Dame before we get to kick off in South Bend.
If Notre Dame plays Georgia, they will not score a point.
Whoa.
They will not
put that on the board.
A point. I'll write it up
Put
there.
it on a board.
Yeah, there you go. Your first board posting.
Yeah, you got your first proclamation.
There you go. It won't score a point.
You're taking Georgia to shut out Notre Dame.
Yes.
Whoa. Clemson at least kicked a field goal against them.
No. I don't think Notre Dame will score a point.
All right. That's on the board. That'll do it for the show. Coming up tomorrow, we'll get you ready for Army Navy.
Hell yeah.
If you watch CBS Sports Network, they are replaying old Army Navy games. That's on a bucket list for a lot of people. Jealous of folks that have ever been to an Army Navy game. Plus, it's the Heisman weekend and a huge weekend of hoops and volleyball. That'll come your way on a Football Friday Fiesta when we reconvene tomorrow at 6. Crossovers coming up next on 1620 The Zone.